concerns you about raising your child. The New York Times out with a profile on the single mothers living with friends as a way to cut down the high costs of living and childcare. Would you join a mommune? And stick around later in the show. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is here for Ask the Mayor.
I'm Marjorie Egan. It's prom season at Speakeasy Stage Company. The troupe is putting on The Prom through June, a musical about washed-up actors who infiltrate small-town Indiana and the chaos that unfolds when two girls decide they want to take each other to prom. They'll treat us to a special live music Friday performance. It's all ahead. Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Immigration rules at the U.S. southern border changed today with the expiration of Title 42, the pandemic-era restriction on immigration that limited access to asylum. The new policy means people can't be turned away from the U.S. without a screening for asylum claims. But it also discourages migrants from illegally crossing into the U.S. with a minimum 5-year ban if they do. Blas Nunez Neto is with Homeland Security.
What we have done is really oversee a historic increase in lawful pathways to the U.S., including at our ports of entry through the CBP-1 application. We are allowing migrants to claim asylum, but placing what we believe are some common sense conditions on it. And we're also significantly expanding family reunification.
Speaking there to NPR's Morning Edition via Skype. Local communities, though, are struggling with the influx of people to the U.S. and are calling on the White House for help. A Pakistani court has granted the former Prime Minister Imran Khan bail in multiple cases against him, allowing for his release following a dramatic arrest earlier this week. NPR's Dia Hadid has more from Islamabad.
In one session, a bench of the Islamabad High Court granted 2 weeks bail to the former Prime Minister Imran Khan in a corruption case. It was that case which led to his arrest by paramilitary forces on Tuesday from the court itself. They smashed open an office to extricate him. In another session, a judge granted Khan bail until next Wednesday in a series of cases filed against him since he was arrested. Between cases, Khan accused Pakistan's army chief of persecuting him. The military did not immediately respond. The government accused the courts of bias towards Khan. Khan's arrest Tuesday triggered protests across Pakistan, including unprecedented attacks on army and police installations. Dia Hadid, NPR News, Islamabad.
President Biden announced 2 new nominations for the Federal Reserve Board today. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the move comes as the central bank is battling stubbornly high inflation.
Biden tapped Fed Governor Philip Jefferson to serve as vice chair of the Fed and named Adriana Kugler of the World Bank to fill an open seat on the board. Kugler is an economist who previously served at the Labor Department. If confirmed, she'd be the first Latina to sit on the governing board of the central bank. The vacancies were created in February when Vice Chair Lael Brainerd left the Fed board to oversee Biden's National Economic Council. Biden also announced plans to renominate Lisa Cook for an additional term as Fed governor. The Fed's been raising interest rates aggressively in an effort to tamp down demand and bring prices under control. Inflation has eased from a 4-decade high last summer. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Wall Street's trading in negative territory at this hour. The Dow is down 39 points, Nasdaq down 42. This is NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. School officials in Amherst have ordered an independent investigation following allegations some middle school counselors failed to protect LGBTQ students. New England Public Media's Adam Frenier reports.
The story was first reported by the school's student newspaper. It alleges 3 counselors did not help LGBTQ students who reported being bullied and that the counselors misgendered trans students. Amherst Regional Superintendent Michael Morris says 3 staffers have been placed on leave but did not specify who. In a letter to parents, Morris said the investigation began in mid-April. He said more complaints came in after community members spoke publicly during a school committee meeting. One of them is parent Amy DiCaprio.
That type of bigotry and intolerance against LGBTQ plus people really doesn't align with why I live in this community.
Mass Live reports 2 of the counselors deny the allegations and say the investigation will make it clear that they did nothing wrong. For the New England News Collaborative, I'm Adam Frenier.
People in Bourne looking to reverse the town's ban on recreational marijuana sales are still trying to bring pot shops to town. The measure failed at town meeting. The Enterprise reporting that petitioners plan to organize a special town meeting in June so voters can weigh in on the matter again. A petition to allow dispensaries failed by one vote at town meeting. Similar plans have failed 3 other times over the past few years. Red Sox back at friendly Fenway tonight. They host the St. Louis Cardinals. We've got some showers rolling in a little later today. High mid-80s, 75 right now.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Scripps News, committed to objective reporting that illuminates and informs the whole story. Available live with a TV antenna or streaming device. More at scripsnews.com/TV.
I'm Henry Santoro, GBH News 89.7.
Rowdy. I am Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library as we do every Tuesday and every Friday, and we're streaming on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Mayor Wu is with us for 12:30 for Ask the Mayor, and after that, we're all going to open the lines and discuss Jim's attire. He's wearing shorts today.
What's wrong with that?
To the Boston Public Library.
What's wrong with that?
People are kind of horrified, Jim, and we're going to get into
How many
it a little
people are
bit later.
horrified?
I think.
How many people are horrified that I'm wearing shorts today? You can leave. Thank you very
polite.
much.
They're being polite.
I don't know about that.
Our staff has been traumatized. We'll discuss it later.
No, I'm pretty traumatized by you being traumatized. In any case, and by the way, even before the mayor, we have a bunch of performers from the prom. This play that you saw a couple of days ago that I'm
Fantastic.
seeing next week that you went wild about.
Yep.
So we've got some great things coming. So first, if you need a reminder to get your card in the mail, this Sunday is Mother's Day. We're starting today's show by opening the phone and text lines at 877-301-8970 for a sort of a state of motherhood in 2023, checking in on the women in our lives who support us, who uplift us. A few different angles to this. There's also a new report from a lifestyle brand, it's called Motherly, that found the number of stay-at-home moms shot up dramatically over the past year. In 2022, it was 15%. This year, it's 25%. A New York Times piece out this morning profiled the phenomenon of mommunes. You ever heard that term before?
No, but I think it's a great idea.
This is where single mothers live and raise their kids together under one roof to share parenting duties and help shoulder the cost of childcare. And Kara Baskin, writing in the Globe about parenting, says she got a flood of responses from mothers that show, quote, a pervasive sense of dread over insidious technology, school shootings, hate crimes, pandemic-induced isolation, and on and on. The number is 877-301-8970. How are you holding up as a mother, a parent in 2023? Does the idea of a mommune have appealed to you? And have you had come to terms with the notion that probably you can't give everything 100%? 877-301-8970. Did you read these statistics about, like, for example, child care costs? I guess we discussed this with Lee Pelton from the Boston Foundation.
Astronomical.
Third highest in the country in Boston.
Yeah, third highest in the country in Boston. And they talk about in general how all across the country, people are hard-pressed to even pay for baby food and formula and diapers, which cost about $2,500 a year. But if you're making a minimum wage, you can't afford even to pay for baby food, formula, and diapers in parts of this country where the minimum wage is the federal minimum wage. What is it, $7.50 is the federal minimum wage?
I don't remember the number.
Something like that.
By the way, that's also the minimum wage in New Hampshire. It's not like some faraway place.
Well, we saw New Hampshire in action earlier this week up
We
at
did indeed.
St. Anselm's College. And they also talk about the fact that we are so far behind other civilized European countries in providing help to families, whether it comes to child care or pre-K costs or reasonable leaves. And we had for a while that child tax credit, which cut poverty
Well, we
among
still have
children.
it, the increased child tax credit.
That's right.
Right.
It cut poverty by 40%. Well, that's
In a
gone.
year, by
that's
the way.
gone.
I know.
And there was not a peep when we were gone. So anyway, mothers, do you feel overwhelmed? Now, let me tell you, with my female friends and I, we have discussed not mommunes, but grandmommunes, because you figure women outlive men usually.
Marjorie now is a grandchild. How old is
That's
she,
right.
a year and a half?
She's a year and a half.
Okay.
So when your husbands die, your significant others dies, and we're all like, wild and crazy older ladies, that what we do is get to live together and take care of each other in our old age.
You doing that?
No, we joke about it.
Oh.
That would be a good way to spend your 70s, 80s, and if you live that long into your 90s, because that your husband is not going to take care of you. He'll probably be dead by then, but even if he were alive, he wouldn't really take care of you the way other women would take care of you. So
when you say your husband will be dead, it sounds like a wish-for kind of thing. You know what I mean? Your husband will be dead, she
That's
says.
Right. And then you can break out.
Thank you for that. More applause than for me in shorts, actually.
Well, in this Mommune story from the New York Times is pretty funny. This is women living together with young children, mothers. But she talks about when she came down with a headache, she had a sore throat, body ache. The other women in the house cooked her homemade soup, made her cookies, took care of the children, took them to a nearby park so she could rest. I don't think your husband's going to do that.
Do you see also, one of the interesting things before we get to the calls and the texts is in Cara Baskin, when she was seeking feedback from mothers about the state of motherhood in 2023, do you believe how many of the mothers that responded to her in 2023 in Massachusetts talked about fear of school shootings?
Yeah.
That when they let their kid go to school, they lived in dread about the possibility of their kid getting shot in his or her school.
In this Cara Baskin story, which is in the paper today, which is the Globe today, that is, this Stacy, who's a mom in Acton, says, and Acton's a very nice town, this is what she worries about: saying goodbye to your child when they leave for school and hoping they won't be victims of a shooting while there. And other mothers talk about the lack of prioritization of children, and the fact that we don't really care about the things that would help families, like some reasonable child care costs, like some reasonable maternity leaves. This is from Lee in Cambridge, who says, in 2023, being a mother is being forgotten. We're penalized if we stay in our jobs, penalized if we leave them. If we complain, we're told becoming a mother was a choice. We're being asked to do a job that is meant to be communal, but they're asked to do it as individuals. We're expected to lean into paid work, but nobody has leaned into doing the unpaid work.
Read what Doris says. You see that?
Doris, where's
Doris? Doris is the one who said, here's hoping the husband dies by the weekend. 877-301-8970. Bruce in Fitchburg, you're not a mother, but you are first on Boston Public Radio. Welcome.
Yeah, I used to be a single parent for quite a while, and I find Marjorie's comments pretty sexist.
What'd she say?
Oh, men aren't going to take the child out and help and blah, blah, blah.
That's it?
Well, that's okay, Bruce.
Unfair.
The reality is the world is sexist, Bruce, but it's mostly about women and not about men. And it's tough to be a single father, but when you are a single father going beyond the pale, you get a lot of credit for it. I don't think single mothers get the kind of credit that single dads do.
That's true, Bruce, is it not?
I don't think so, no. Actually, I was in the military, and the vast majority of single parents were fathers, and, who had custody of their children. Yes. Wow. There was a single parents group that I belonged to in Germany, and there was like 75% men.
Would you have liked to be able to join a bromune when you were a single father, or no? Would that have appealed to you?
It would be a dadmune.
Whatever it is.
A dadmune.
Call it a parent-mune.
Parent-mune. My apologies.
You don't have to be sexist about it.
I'm sexist too. Okay, Bruce, we're with you. I can't tell you how much I admire.
Just as nurturing as anybody, as any woman.
Okay, Bruce, thank you for the call.
Bruce, I appreciate the call, and I'm sure you're a wonderful father, but come on. How many fathers do we have that don't support their children? Deadbeat dads are all over the place. How many single women get nothing?
Well, so the vast majority of single
fathers?
Parents are not men.
They're
vast
not.
Majority are women.
They're not. And I always love the example. A lot of women know what I'm talking about. It's getting a little bit better, but if you are working and you want to leave your job to go to a soccer game or your kids play or something else, it's getting better. But certainly women are much more worried about being viewed as not serious about their job. And it used to crack me up when Charlie Baker was running for governor, and he said he had to, or maybe he already was the governor, and he had to leave early because he had to go to his kids' soccer game. Everybody said, wow, what a great dad he is. Well, if Jane Swift was leaving early because her first child was really, really sick with a high fever, and she took a helicopter home to get to her kid, she was the worst governor ever to hit the state of Massachusetts.
Speaking of Charlie Baker, has he returned our call, Jamie Lee? I guess he lost our number. 877-301-8970. 8970. We're talking about the state of motherhood in 2023, 2 days ahead of Mother's Day. Megan, you're in Westport. You're next on Boston Public Radio. Thanks for calling. Hi.
Hey, I'm so glad I got through.
Thanks.
So I am a 45-year-old working mother, 2 jobs with a wonderful supportive partner. I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. I've never had a single day of maternity leave since I had my kids. I had my oldest 3 weeks into COVID. Our country does nothing to support families, and I think that it is disgraceful the way that we expect people to show up in every role that they play in their life, and we do nothing to support the time that they need for that or for the self-care that it takes. And I also want to say very respectfully to Bruce, because it sounds like he was probably a really, really great single father.
Yeah.
The bottom line is there is a sexism and a different expectation as well as a different role that women take in a family, regardless of how support. Like, my partner is amazing. But the bottom line is I take on a cognitive load for my family that is just simply different. And we talk about that a lot. He's super supportive. He gets it. But it is where we're at in this world, and we have to start talking about it.
Megan, we appreciate your getting through. Thank you for calling us and getting through. Thanks for your call. 877-301-8970. I want to return to what you said about the increase in that child tax credit. Again, this was part of the original blush of things around COVID. It was an increase on an existing credit. As you said, I want to repeat what you said. It reduced childhood poverty
40%.
40%.
Yeah.
Yet, because of the opposition of both Republicans and I think Manchin, unless I'm incorrect.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure. What is the argument for eliminating something that is not an abstract notion, but is proven to do something that theoretically every elected official cares about, reducing the incidence? I'm serious, the incidence of childhood poverty.
Joe Manchin is the senator from West Virginia who's doing very bad things for climate change because he's made a lot of money from the coal industry. Is also the father of a woman whose claim to fame in corporate America is raising the price of EpiPens, which save the lives of children, to such astronomical
$600
amounts of money that people could not afford to get
Yep.
the EpiPens to save the lives of their children.
point.
So I would say there's a lack of maybe...
like daughter, like father. I'm serious. I mean, it is.
Yeah, I would say that. And people talk about how radical Elizabeth Warren is. Her radical idea was to have your child care be no more than 7% of your salary. Is that really a radical idea, or is that an idea that could really help people in the workforce, help families be able to afford living? She talks about getting a paid maternity leave, which is starting to happen in more companies. I mean, some people work for these companies that give you 5 months paid maternity leave. That's great, because you're not really ready to go back to work physically or mentally after 2 months or 8 weeks, which was the standard when my kids were little. So she's not a radical. She's kind of dealing with the basics of people's family lives.
Well, also the great line, which we repeated regularly when she was running for president, child care is infrastructure for families. And the point she was making is everybody supports infrastructure for businesses, but apparently not enough people support infrastructure for families. Let's go to Worcester, where Nancy is on Boston Public Radio. Hey, Nancy.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm a first-time mom.
Congrats.
And thank you. I have an 8-month-old, and I'm also an educator in the public school system. And I'm just calling to express my frustration that the Paid Family Leave Act that was recently passed in Massachusetts allowed municipalities to opt out. So I was not able to access that paid leave.
I wasn't even aware that municipalities could opt out. That's pretty...
So what does the city of Worcester allow you as a teacher, Nancy, with a young baby?
So I can't speak for the city of Worcester. I'm in a smaller district, but it is public.
Oh.
And we do have a maternity leave option, but it is not paid.
Yeah.
And what is the argument, Nancy? I'm embarrassed that I don't know more about this. We're gonna, when the governor's with us in the next couple of weeks, I promise we'll bring this up with her. Is the argument? I'm not defending it. I'm just asking. Is the argument that it's unaffordable for some communities? Is that the line?
that's my guess. Honestly, it's hard to find much information about it.
Yeah.
But they put in the law that they allowed municipalities to opt out. So, of course, all of them did opt out. I'm not aware of any municipality that does offer it.
Well, I promise you we'll follow up with the governor when she's with us, Nancy.
Just one last thing before you go. So how have you managed financially without getting paid during that, however time it took?
I'm lucky enough to have had enough sick time accrued over the years that I was able to use my sick time. But once I return to work, I have 0 sick days left. So every day my child is sick or I'm sick, I have to take a pretty major pay cut for that 2 weeks.
Nancy, good luck with the kid.
Thank you for the
calling.
call, and I hope you have a spectacular first Mother's Day. The present should be rolling in.
That's right. It is
big
the first
time
one.
when it's your first time around. That's
so
right.
Zion in JP texts all the fear-mongering against trans, drag queens, gays, crime, etc. is to distract from the fact a lot of people can't afford basic stuff like diapers. It's all connected. Our leaders don't lead, but rather distract so they don't have to go against the wishes of their corporate owners. No one is addressing the real issues. I think well put.
I just got a text that said, it's not mother, Marjorie, it's birthing person. Get it right.
877-301-8970 is our number.
It's Mother's Day Sunday. If you haven't got your act together and got something for the mothers in your life, you better hurry up. You're running out of time. We're talking about the state of motherhood in 2023 in the United States of America. The number is 877-301-8970. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
National elections in Turkey are on Sunday. Volunteers in this call center are organizing poll watchers to make sure the vote is fair. Longtime leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan is now facing an organized opposition. A sagging economy and a controversial emergency response to this winter's earthquakes have weakened support for the longtime leader. Democracy takes its turn in Turkey on the world.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and National Grid, providing access to electric heat pumps which offer heating and cooling for businesses of all sizes to help them achieve their sustainability goals. You can learn more about heat pump technology at ngrid.com/future. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, a health plan connected to a world-leading healthcare system, committed to providing innovative plans, coverage, and a broad network of doctors. Learn more at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browdy. She's Mardregan. We're live at the library, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. Mayor Wu will join us from 12:30 to 1:30 live at the library. You can ask her questions. By the way, if you come here, you can ask her a question face to face. If you're just joining us ahead of Mother's Day on Sunday, we're celebrating the mothers among us and checking in on the state of motherhood in 2023. Can I mention a wonderful way that you and I have done a few times to spend the beginning of Mother's Day?
Oh, yes.
Clementina Cherry is one of the most remarkable women who ever lived. She's head of the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute, Dorchester. Her son, Louis D. Brown, was killed, I believe it was on Christmas Eve, going to a peace party.
Right.
Was he not? She created a center in his name. They do incredible work around people about violence, survivors of violence. And on Sunday morning, starting at 8 o'clock at Townfield Park in Dorchester, it's 1520 Dorchester Avenue, thousands and thousands of people gather, many of whom lost someone they loved to violence. And you'd think it'd be a downbeat affair. Actually, it is not. It is celebrating the lives of people who were lost. Thousands of other people come to support them. So again, Sunday morning, May 14th, this Sunday, 8 o'clock, first couple of hours of your Mother's Day. It's a great way, the 27th annual Mother's Day Walk for Peace.
Well, I think it's worth pointing out, too, that in this Carol Baskin story, a lot of the mothers talked about being afraid of sending their kids to school.
Yep.
In Boston, in parts of Boston, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, mothers for 30, 40 years. He'd been afraid of children like Tina Cherry's son getting killed for no reason on the streets of Boston, walking home from a basketball game, playing in the park. I mean, worried about your kid getting shot has been a constant there for a long time. So listen to this. This is a nice guy, Aaron Hopkinton. He says, I'm in constant awe of my mother and my wife. Their strength inspires me to be a better man and human being. Wishing all the moms out there a happy Mother's Day. And then, above that, there's some show called Odd Mom Out. I didn't see it. But a texter asked whether I did see the show Odd Mom Out, because the husband apparently in this show got a parade in his honor because he did school drop-off.
That's great. Shinzia, you are in New Hampshire. You're on Boston Public Radio. What's up with you?
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
I'm a mom of 3, and I can relate to your last caller, Nancy. I was a former teacher and actually had to quit teaching due to the lack of pay and the amount it would have cost to have my, children in childcare.
Wow.
I think yeah.
Your voice sounds like you're ready to scream.
You're exhausted.
Is that a fair description, or am I reading something into it that I shouldn't?
No, it's definitely a fair description. I was listening to her and could almost crawl through the radio because I just felt her pain. I had a child with 4 years teaching, so my first kid, I had enough sick days accrued, and then when I went back from maternity leave, I was actually already pregnant again, and I had twins. So I felt like I was forced to quit because I knew that I didn't have enough, sick time, and I wasn't going to get paid.
Hey, Shinzia, can I ask you a question? I don't know your personal situation, but beyond the system letting you down, do you have any siblings who could help, or no?
Are you being funny?
I am being funny because we just got to know that you're Jamie's sister.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Yeah. Did he help you at all, or is he useless?
No, he's very helpful, and thankfully, I did have a family support system that I could rely on, and I was just going to comment on how mothers need villages, and I was fortunate to have one, but I do feel the pain of moms that don't.
Yeah.
Hey, Shinzia, you have a pretty good brother, and we hope we meet you soon. Thanks so much for your call, and good luck with the kids.
I keep trying to tell my daughter that. You need to be close to your family, my dear. You need to be close to your family.
I thought she is going to be close to the family.
Well, not yet.
No,
not yet. She's still out of town, so I keep telling her she's going to be sorry one of these days that she can't just drop the little brats off.
She's not in the Arctic. She's in New York City.
No, she's in New York City, but that's still, it's a 4.5 hour drive.
877-301-8970. We're attempting to celebrate, or I don't know what we're doing, around motherhood in 2023, 2 days ahead of Mother's Day.
By the way, a lot of teachers in Massachusetts do have better deals in terms of getting time off. I know in Brookline they do. I think in Boston they do. Some of the bigger towns do have deals for teachers, which they should.
Speaking of mothers as teachers, I forgot about this. Tell me about your aunts and them as teachers. What was the rule when your aunts were teachers in terms of what you could not be?
Oh, well, they
I know it was a long time ago.
They could not get married. This is
public school teachers
in my town, and they certainly couldn't get pregnant. Elizabeth Warren talked about that, how she lost her job when she
that's right. I forgot
pregnant.
About that. That's
and
right.
How old is Elizabeth Warren? In her early 70s?
72, I think.
Or something like that. Yeah, Mary Fonseca, who was a state senator from my hometown of Fall River, changed that rule, so you couldn't throw the teachers out. I think you could get married, because there were some married teachers. I think you couldn't get pregnant. That was the deal, and come back. So that's why there were so many, Miss Leahy's, Miss Larry's, Miss this, Miss that, because they couldn't have kids. Anyway, 877-301-8970. I should know that, whether it was marriage or not, but I'm not sure.
Whatever. I mean, the point is made.
Bree from Wakefield, thank you for calling.
Hey there. So I first have to recognize that I'm super duper privileged as I'm sitting in the parking lot of a Whole Foods waiting to head in to buy my child organic chicken nuggets. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
I am at a director level at a large organization that unfortunately is mostly female-led. Our CEO, our high-ups are female, and our mothers. And they give us 3 weeks of maternity leave at 100% pay. And then it's up to FMLA as to how much additional time you receive, but only at 60% of your pay. So I actually had to look at my boss and say, I'll quit, I'll leave, I'll find a better deal. I will not accept 3 weeks.
And what happened?
And thankfully, I didn't have to quit, and I also didn't get fired, which is always a good thing. And I was able to get 12 weeks at 100% pay, but it shouldn't have to be.
Right, and you would agree you had a little more
threatening to
leverage
quit.
in your relationship with your boss because of your position. You'd agree to that. Obviously, you acknowledge that, right, Bree?
I absolutely do, because one of my employees went out on leave as soon as I came back, and I wasn't able to give her that same deal because she does not have the same leverage. And to me, that has made me sick to my stomach ever since I had to have that conversation with her. And it's unacceptable.
Well, it is unacceptable, and I'm glad it worked out for you, but I'm glad you acknowledge that it doesn't for most. Bree, thank you for the call. You know what's interesting about this conversation so far? How many of the callers and texters have celebrated their own motherhood, the women who have called or texted? Not many. I mean, they're talking about the travails, the challenges.
Well, you know, it's the old cliche, there's no more wives. You know, they're talking about a lot of these mothers are
Explain what you mean to that. by that.
Because when everybody in the household, when mom and dad are both working, or mom and mom, whoever it is, are working 40 and 50 hours a week, the stuff that needs to get done at home, the laundry and the cooking and the planning and the shuttling back and forth to the soccer games and the plays and all that kind of stuff, there's no one to do that. So it's a second shift. Ali Hochschild wrote a great book a long time ago called The Second Shift, and it was about women coming home from work and then beginning their next 8-hour shift in the household. And there are a lot of fathers, in fairness to fathers, who are really helpful. I've seen a lot of young fathers who are absolutely terrific, but there's just not enough time to do everything anymore. And when you talk about, we had, who's the afternoon co-host we had on from NBR is talking about having her heavy-duty job. Mary, I'm forgetting her name. Yes, we know. Louise Kelly. Mary Louise
Kelly from NPR.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I was having a bad moment there. Mary Louise Kelly was talking
Why
about...
would we know? She's only on every day.
She's on every day,
and
she's really talented and really terrific, but she was talking about what you give up if you have a big-time job, and she has a big-time job, and she lost a lot of her children's lives, and you could hear she was almost in tears when we were talking to her about it.
When the kid scored the winning goal in the soccer game, and she was on Nantucket writing her book.
And she wasn't there. So I think that's part of the problem. And as I've always said, the problem with a lot of the second-wave feminism is that a lot of the women that talked about that, including Gloria Steinem, whom I admire tremendously, never had any children. So she thought, well, everybody can pitch in. There's just 24 hours in a day, and that's the problem. John from Marlborough, thank you for calling.
Hey, John. Hey, John.
Hello.
Hello to you. You called us, right?
Yeah, no, it's Marblehead, not Marblehead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Marblehead, whatever. Marlborough, Marblehead. Yeah. We don't care. But go ahead, John. We're glad you're here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. The only thing I wanted to say, and I support the position that...
Hey, John, I hope you don't think I'm rude. You got to make your point in one sentence because
the connection is awful.
Is atrocious. Just if you could tell us the bottom line, what are you calling to say, please?
Sure. I just wanted to get off speaker.
That is much better.
Yeah,
you're
that's
probably
good.
breaking the law. That's good. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. I don't want to say I'm against women having babies and making a choice.
That's a good decision
But
on your part.
I know. Back in my day, though, there was a thing that you have to have a village, and you had to be able to afford to have one, a second, or a third child. And I wonder, how did we get to the point where we're at today that you speak about child care like it's a constitutional right?
No, I'll tell you how we got to the point. The old line that has been said by more than one a smart person is the Republicans believe that life begins at conception and ends at birth. That's how we got to this place. We provide virtually no support for young parents, and as a result, they're in this incredible conundrum that you shouldn't be based upon your income. John, thanks for the call.
And it's not just that. Everything has become so much more expensive. I mean, 30 years ago.
Well, it's much more expensive in Western European countries where they're getting help.
They have much higher taxes and they have a much better safety net. But that's one of the differences between now and 20 and 30 years ago or 40 years ago, whenever he's talking about. Anyway.
In any case, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. Everybody's miserable, I guess.
Apparently so.
Okay.
Don't worry, they're going to college or getting a job soon, so it's almost over.
But up next, we got a great break. We have live music Friday early today. We're going to listen to and speak to two performers from the Speakeasy Stage Company's The Prom, a show about what happens when two gay teenagers decide they want to take one another to their small town Indiana prom. Mary Callahan and Lacey Kelly join us next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Beacon Hill buckles down for budget talks as tax revenues take a nosedive. I'm Adam Riley. This week on Talking Politics, how that unpleasant surprise and the D.C. debt ceiling fight could impact state spending. Plus, a federal judge tosses out the Boston City Council's new map. What the ongoing saga tells us about city politics right now, including the politics of race. Join me for Talking Politics tonight at 7 on GBH2 and online at gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you and the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds for the citizens and businesses of the Commonwealth. You can see if you have unclaimed money at findmassmoney.com. And Rockland Trust Bank, dedicated to providing advice and support to the community for over 115 years. More at rocklandtrust.com. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. The mayor will join us. Mayor will be here 12:30 to 1:30. Is that right? Yes, it is. Jim, you're in for a treat. Over at the Boston Center for the Arts, the Speakeasy Stage Company is running a production of the Tony-nominated musical, The Prom. Marjorie was there the other night, calls me afterwards. Wild she was, in a good way. It's a show about young love, about overcoming prejudice, about how you can exploit the plight of young people in a desperate attempt to stay relevant, Mary. In any case, two of the actors behind that show are with us now. Boston legend Mary Callahan plays a lovable, narcissistic has-been, Dee. Sorry about that. It is what it is, my friend.
I would like to correct has-been.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
As I said, has-been. Though you may already recognize her from her time on Broadway in shows like Annie and Mamma Mia. Beside her is Boston legend-to-be Lacey Kelly, who plays Emma, one of the teens at the center of the story. Lacey is this week, this is ridiculous, closing out her sophomore year at the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley. That's what it's called now, right? Boston Conservatory, Berkeley. Okay. Prom is showing through June 10th at the Calderwood Boston Center for the Art on Tremont Street. For more information and to get tickets, go to speakeasystage.com. Mary, Lacey, it's great to have you. Congratulations.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a wonderful night at the theater. Even though it's a serious subject, it was an awful lot of fun with the singing and the dancing. So tell us, Mary, what's the story?
Well, the elevator pitch is there is a 17-year-old girl from Indiana who wants to take her girlfriend to the prom, and she is met with all kinds of stop. And on the other side of the country are 5 in need of some positive press.
Oh, the has-beens, right? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Uh-huh.
The Broadway friends need something to get their rating up, get their happiness, lovable quotient up.
Yes.
So they find the story of the young girl and they descend upon Indiana, and hilarity ensues. But there is a redemption arc for the Broadway friends.
Absolutely.
So, Lisa, tell us a little bit more about the Emma dilemma, for lack of a better expression.
Nice.
Oh, goodness.
Took me 3 weeks.
Okay,
on that, by the way. 3 weeks.
I like that.
Yeah, good.
Well, Emma is a 17-year-old girl from Edgewater, Indiana, and she's a lesbian. And I think that the most important part of her story, is that she is very sure of herself, even in the midst of all of the prejudice that she faces where she lives. She was kicked out of her house when she was 16. She lives with her grandmother. But despite all of that kind of awfulness, she finds solace in herself and a community that she builds.
And isn't this based, at least in part, on a true story?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about the story.
In 2010, the writer read a story, and I'm going to say it was Minnesota, could have been Missouri.
Okay.
But these days,
somewhere out
it
there.
could be
exactly.
it could be
Everywhere.
anywhere now.
Yes.
That he read a story of a young girl that wanted to take her girlfriend to the prom, and they were met with all the resistance.
You know, Lisa, you're a sophomore. That's real, right?
Yes.
And
Yes, I am.
performing behind you when you were rehearsing here, other young people, are they also conservatory people, or some of them are?
Yes. I
Yikes.
believe three of them are Boston Conservatory students. One of them is a Berkeley student. Come on, Berkeley, represent. And then 2 of them are Boston Conservatory alums, and one is a CCM alum. So we're all over the place.
That is really
Yes.
unbelievable.
It's very
so good.
young at
What's
the
that
theater.
like for you, by the way?
How dare you?
You have
And
been
look,
around a bit.
I was going to invite you to the prom, Jim.
No, son, I'll go with you.
Since Marjorie's already been, will you
By the
come
way,
to the
I've been to a
prom?
number of proms with a number of has-beens, so it'll be perfect.
Wow.
Exactly.
This interview is going south
I think
really
it's going
fast.
very well, but I accept in the
Yes,
answer to your
good.
question. Thank you very much.
It's wonderful to be with these performers. Are not to be believed. They're so talented, and they're smart, and they're young, and I don't remember being any of those
But what is
things.
it, seriously, what does it do for, I mean, you are big time. I mean, you are. And
Thank you.
Well, you are.
No, thank you.
And you're performing with sophomores and others from colleges. What's that like?
Trust me, it's still, they're very, very, very good. And there's really no difference. There's really no difference, except sometimes I may not remember my lines. But
Well, you're actually going to, you're going to
I can
perform
relate
first,
to that
Mary.
completely.
Thank you, Marjorie.
I forget everything.
Mary, you're going to perform
Yes, Mary's
first.
gonna
I am.
What are you singing?
Okay.
I am singing The Ladies Improving.
And what's that? Can you set it up for us a little
Yes, I can set it up. There is the high school principal who is a big theater fan, and ironically or not, he's straight. So this is his favorite song from her first musical that she did, and she performs it to show him that she can be redeemed.
Can't wait. So you quietly put your headset down, and we'll talk to Lisa for a minute as you walk over to the microphone.
You know what I want to know? I mean, what happens? Do theater people come poaching at Boston Conservatory and Berkeley School of Music looking for people with great voices and great dancing skills? I mean, how did this happen?
Well, goodness. We were sent an email as conservatory students saying that they were doing the prom at Speakeasy, and they asked us to send in auditions. And I actually almost didn't send mine in because I disliked the video so much. But
Wait, you disliked your videos? Is that what you mean?
yes, but I mean, hey, I'm here now. So
That's right. Okay.
A very fine
So it
point.
was much better than you thought.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
All right, we're going to listen to Mary Callanan. She is now going to sing Ladies Improving.
You ask, is she perfect? My answer is nope. Her range needs expanding, her edges need sanding, but she can become a sure bet. And I'm begging you, sir, don't give up on her yet. The lady's improving so much that she gloats I know you've got standards, feel free to give notes. There isn't an issue, and that's why I wish you could see there's no reason to fret. And I'm begging you, sir, don't give up on her yet. Everybody thinks that I've got some kinks that I'll never work out. Even you're inclined to think I'm unrefined. But I promise with some time that my aptitude will climb, and you'll leave your doubts and disbelief behind. The lady's improving, removing all doubt. She has hidden charms that are sure to come out. You're bound to discover this book's not her cover, so don't make a move you'll regret. And I'm begging you, sir, no reneging on her. Don't give up on her.
That was Mary Callanan, and that was Paul Case on the piano.
Our musical director, Paul
Fantastic
Case.
accompaniment as
Oh my
well.
God, rejoin
and
us,
that
Mary.
is from the show The Prom, which is right now at the Speakeasy Theater. When is it going through? It's going through
June 10th.
June
June
10th.
10th.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So
It happens to be Boston Pride, June 10th.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Yes.
oh,
Perfect.
So you're,
Look at that.
you're coordinating that.
Yes.
You're coordinating
It's like we
that.
planned it.
So I said before that even though this is really fun and it's very sad in some parts because the woman that plays your would-be prom date, her mother has rejected her in much the way in the play your character's mother has rejected her.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, this story is one of acceptance, and I think to get there that you have to go through some trials. And I think that Alyssa's mother, who is my date, she's just scared because she doesn't understand, like a lot of people in this country right now, as we're seeing with the drag bans and the bans on trans youth all across the country. I think that it comes from fear. But at the end of the day, I think that love conquers fear, and I think that that is what is promoted with this show.
Yeah, I'd respectfully say, well, I think fear is a part. We talk about this a lot.
Mhm.
Cruelty is the point, as a book title said, and with a lot of these, quote, leaders, it is sadism. It's an attempt to profit by making vulnerable people have them experience pain. It's just, when you, I mean, Mary, I was speaking to someone the other day who was going in the next couple of nights to see this and said, I can't wait to see it. I hear the performances are great, singing and dancing, but the theme is a little bit dated. And I go to them, dated? This is exactly what we're living through in this country, which I assume makes it even more powerful for the person sitting in the seats, no?
I would think so. When I heard that they were doing this, I thought, oh, it's going to be a period piece.
Yeah.
And then every time, I would say, open the newspaper, every time you click on a news story, it's Tennessee, it's Minnesota, it's everywhere. It's still happening. And social media is playing into it. The grown-ups are playing into it, if you will, because we have one parent who represents that view for all parents, and while she is not the villain of the piece, because she just says, I don't want you to get hurt, which is a valid thing, but it's a dance.
Yeah. It's like we're going backwards. I mean, I thought when I first got there that I thought, is this really still happening in 2023?
Yes.
And then, as you say, Mary, then you read these stories. I mean, we've had this in Massachusetts with
Yes, we have.
drag shows, people being, protested and harassed at drag shows. And we've even had people in Massachusetts talking about banning books, which is just kind of insane because we like to think of ourselves here as a little bit more.
Yeah, and just inside of 495, let's say, I heard a story of a certain school that a young man wanted to take his boyfriend to the prom and was told no. And that's now.
Right.
It's happening now.
We're making this so far. This is the single most depressing show we've ever done. So can we turn this around a little bit?
Let's talk about Mother's Day.
How excited.
Let's talk about you.
Let's not talk about me, but
You would
thank
like
you, Mary.
that, Mary, actually. That would lift your spirits.
So, how exciting is it to be back? And as I said, you're a Boston kid, essentially.
I am a Boston kid.
And you've been away. I mean, so what's it like coming back? I assume is it great?
It is wonderful to be back in my house and to remind myself that I'm married. So that was fun. It's nice to mow the lawn. Not that I do that. Somewhere my husband is laughing.
Yeah, mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Maybe you can weigh in on what you think of Jim Shorts. We're talking about that later in the show.
What do you think?
I think maybe that
the cargo short.
Yeah,
isn't
the cargo
that?
short.
Why don't we ask the young people? The young people don't have cargo
No one's
shorts
giving these
on.
people crap. What is the deal? How do I look, would you guys say, in shorts? I'm talking to the shorts
Just
people.
nod.
Yeah?
Yeah.
One woman, thank you very much. That wasn't very good.
The young men are, though.
I know, but they're young men. I think that was
men.
the point Marjorie was trying to make. Do you know what I'm saying?
Cargo shorts. Man.
Fine.
Cargo
Rethink
shorts.
it.
Lisa
Rethink it.
Kelly, Mary Callanan from the prom, which is here through June 10th, which is Pride. What are you doing? What do you do after this? I mean, to do something so great and so big so soon, what do you do? What do you do next? What's next for you?
Junior year.
Junior year of college.
Oh my God.
Yeah, junior year of college, auditioning for shows at school again. That's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, there's no plan.
You know, I interviewed the Roger Brown, who was then head of Berkeley a couple of years ago when the merger happened. I'm embarrassed that I can't remember who was head of the conservatory then. How has that worked out? I mean, there was a lot of concern about independent. I mean, how is the place? Why are you making a face? You don't want to say anything?
Well, no, I mean, I just work here. Like, it's going great for me.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about something else. What do you think about the Speakeasy Stage Company? You want to say something about them?
I love the Speakeasy Stage. I was around. I was around at the beginning.
You were?
So, yes. Mm-hmm. Sure. I've known Paul quite a long time. I think they do tremendous work. I like that they do work that is not necessarily. It's out of the realm of Paul always wanted to do different work that not everybody was interested in doing. And I think he had a single-mindedness in his vision, and he has hit it out of the park. And I'm so wildly happy for him. It's 25 years. It's hard to think that I didn't have it before. I'm going to do it, and I've made a career out of it. I'm very proud of him.
So we're going to hear Lisa Kelly sing in just a second, but what you notice when you go to this performance is not just the singing and the story. It is the people that are over there, the dancers. I mean, the dancing is just incredible. You are so talented, all of you, and it's just so uplifting to see everybody dancing around the stage. I mean, my God, I was exhausted just watching everybody. So
you are.
Yeah, you are. So we're not going to get to talk to the dancers, but it's something that you will really appreciate if you go see the show. And it's a really, despite the sometimes sadness, it's a really uplifting evening at the theater. So, Lisa, what are you going to sing for us?
I'm going to sing Unruly Heart. And that is a song that Emma wrote herself, basically about, it's for people out there who love someone in a way that the rest of the world can't understand. That's the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah. And by the way, after this performance, Marjorie is going to mention all of your colleagues.
Yes,
so
I am.
Don't worry, they're not going to be. She's going to butcher every name. I want you to
I'm
know.
not going to butcher every name.
We're going to try.
No, I'm not.
So, Lisa, do you want to quietly put your headphones down and start moseying on over to your colleagues
I'd
over
love
there?
to.
We're very excited
Thank
about
you.
this, I should say.
Actually, I can say it right now, too,
What is
while
it?
Lisa is moseying over there. The singers are going to accompany Lisa. I mentioned already Paul Cates, he's the pianist, and the singers you're going to hear who are also the dancers, Emily Cochrane, Nate Hydal, Tori Highline, Nola Montgomery, Brogan Nelson, Nico Ochua, I think it is Ochua.
How close was that? Close?
Kashoa, okay. Sorry, my apologies. Nina Oso and Victor Carrillo Tracy.
Even if we can't pronounce your names, we admire you all. We want you to know that, okay? So I hope you feel that. It's all you, Lisa. Do it.
Perfect. Some hearts can conform, fitting the norm, flaunting their love for all to see. I tried to change, thinking how easy life could be. I just kept on failing. I guess that was a sign that there wasn't much hope for this unruly heart of mine. Then you came along, and right or wrong, feelings began to overflow. We had to hide, thinking that no one else could know. And not having you near me was where I drew the line. So I had to conceal this poor unruly heart of mine. And though I don't know how or when, but somehow I learned to see, no matter what the world might say, this heart is the best part of me. So fears all in the past, fading so fast, I won't stay hidden anymore. I'm who I am, and I think that's worth fighting for. And nobody out there ever gets to define the life I meant to lead with this unruly heart of mine.
Nothing made sense until him.
She is the best thing in my life.
The only good thing. But we're always hiding. You're not the only one. And though I don't know how or when,
somehow I learned to see, no matter what the world might say, this heart is the best part of me. Past, fading so fast, I won't stay hidden anymore. I'm who I am, and I think that's worth fighting for. And nobody out there ever gets to define the life I meant to lead with this unruly heart of mine, mine. And nobody out there ever gets to define the life I meant to lead with this unruly heart of
Mary Callahan, Lisa Kelly from Speakeasy Stage Company's The Prom. The show is running from now through June 10th at the Calderwood Boston Center for the Arts. For more info, go to speakeasystage.com. Also credit to the other performers we have with us today: pianist and musical director, conductor Paul Cates, singers Emily Cochrane, Nate Heidel, Tori Highline, Nolan Montgomery, Brogan Nelson, Nico Kochoa, I think, Nina Oso, and Victor Carrillo Tracy. After the noon news, we're going to be joined by BU professor and best-selling author Mitchell Zuckoff, who just published a powerful new book on courage and sacrifice during the United States evacuation from Afghanistan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. Mayor Wu is here from 12:30 to 1:30.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. That's right after an NPR news break, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Bank of America, offering access to resources and digital tools designed to help local to global companies make moves for their businesses. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking-for-business. And Comcast Business, committed to providing connectivity for your business by offering cybersecurity, internet, and mobile solutions. Comcast Business, powering possibilities. Restrictions apply. Comcast Business Internet required.
I'm investigative reporter Chris Burrell, and you and I are listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. We watched in shock at the video of planes taking off from the crowded runways of the Kabul airport in August of 2021 as the final U.S. forces evacuated. BU journalism professor and best-selling author Mitchell Zuckoff joins us to discuss his reporting on the heroism and sacrifice in Afghanistan as the U.S. withdrew in his terrific new book, The Secret Gate.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is back for Ask the Mayor. We'll ask her about that fabulous solo with the BSO, the latest on city redistricting, summer open streets, and you can ask her whatever you'd like. Give us a call or show up at the Boston Public Library. The number to call is 877-301-8970. That's the same number when we open the lines to talk about men, Jim in particular, in shorts, at work, traumatizing us all. All that ahead on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The Biden administration is facing legal challenges over new limits on asylum at the southern border. NPR's Joel Rose reports the rule took effect as pandemic border restrictions, known as Title 42, expired overnight.
The ACLU and other immigrant advocacy groups filed a legal challenge to a new Biden administration rule that makes it much harder for migrants to get asylum if they cross the border illegally after passing through Mexico or another country. Advocates argue the rule is nearly identical to previous asylum restrictions put in place during the Trump administration that were blocked in court, and they're seeking to reopen an existing lawsuit before a federal judge in California. The strict new asylum rule is a key part of the Biden administration's strategy to deter migrants from crossing the border illegally. The administration disputes that the new rule is the same as Trump's because it has some exemptions for the most vulnerable, and it's paired with new legal pathways. Joel Rose, NPR News, El Paso.
Prosecutors in New York City say they filed criminal charges in the death of a man on a subway who was put in a chokehold after screaming at passengers. 24-year-old Daniel Penny surrendered to authorities today to face a charge of second-degree manslaughter in the death of 30-year-old Jordan Neely. Neely's attorney, Dante Mills, spoke outside of the courthouse in New York City just a short time ago.
We don't want it where you can kill someone because you thought there was a possibility they could do something to you. There was no attack. Mr. Neely did not attack anyone. He did not touch anyone. He did not hit anyone, but he was choked to death, and that can't stand. That can't be what we represent.
Jordan Neely's death has sparked days of protests in New York. President Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, met with a top Chinese diplomat this week. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports it was the first high-level talks between Washington and Beijing since a Chinese spy balloon was discovered over the U.S. earlier this year.
White House officials say Sullivan met with China's top diplomat Wang Yi in Vienna to discuss several bilateral issues, including Taiwan and the war in Ukraine. A senior administration official described a substantive meeting that was, quote, one of the more candid and constructive discussions they've been a part of. They talked for about 8 hours, stretched over the course of 2 days. The official said both sides want to move past the spy balloon incident, which had led to a pause in relations. They instead sought common ground and talked about working together on mutual concerns, such as transnational narcotics. The official says Sullivan also raised names of specific prisoners the United States has concerns about. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
You're listening to NPR News in Washington.
Good afternoon from the GBH Radio Newsroom in Boston. I'm Henry Santoro. 5 people have been taken to area hospitals today after an accident involving Amtrak equipment and workers at the Reedville station in Hyde Park. A large police presence as ambulances transported the people to the hospitals this morning. No word yet on their condition. The incident did not affect service on the commuter rail. We will keep an eye on the situation and bring you any developments. The local Porch Fest season premieres tomorrow with the oldest of the state's 24 outdoor neighborhood concert series in Somerville. As GBH's Mark Hers reports, Massachusetts just might be the nation's leader in Porch Fests.
Somerville may be the granddaddy of local Porch Fests, but if you want to meet the nationwide original, then you got to go to Ithaca, New York to find Leslie Green, who co-founded the very first one in 2007. She says 170 Porch Fests have now sprouted up across the U.S. and Canada, but is Massachusetts leading the pack for Porch Fests per capita?
Totally. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I love that there are Porch Fests in so many different parts of the country, but Massachusetts, man, punching way above your weight.
Green says she thinks the Porch Fest idea has spread because it's so simple. Play music outside, put each porch performer on a map, and let the crowds do the rest. In Boston, I'm Mark Hers, GBH News 89.7.
Former Somerville Mayor Joe Curtatone put the Porch Fest on the map there in Somerville. He green-lighted the project. Red Sox back at Friendly Friendway tonight, hosting the St. Louis Cardinals. It's 80 degrees in Boston. Yes, sir.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
I'm Henry Santoro. This is GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. I want to say thank you to Nancy, who got me a Sports Illustrated from '73 that features a big story on, guess who?
Secretariat. Oh,
that's
my
right.
God.
Just wanted to get that in there. Nancy, she's out. Thank you very much.
Nancy, don't encourage her, but thank you, I guess, is the bottom line.
Okay. Mayor Wu's going to be with us at 12:30 for Ask the Mayor. But right now, Jim,
I will. During Wednesday night's controversial CNN town hall, former President Trump, said this about the withdrawal from Afghanistan in August of 2021.
We were getting out of Afghanistan with strength and with dignity, and instead we got out, we looked like fools, probably the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Some people think the most embarrassing moment was the deal he cut with the Taliban, leaving out the Afghan government, but we'll see. Joining us now at the BPO is someone who can give us a dose of reality on those final moments of the U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan. Mitchell Zuckoff is a BU journalism professor, former Boston Globe Spotlight reporter, New York Times bestselling author of 13 Hours, Frozen in Time, and Lost in Shangri-La. His new book about those final days is called The Secret Gate, a true story of courage and sacrifice during the collapse of Afghanistan. And an incredible coincidence, he has the same last name as a young woman climate reporter who works with us, which really is a coincidence. She's pretty terrific.
Yes.
Good to see you, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Marjorie.
Yes, and as I said to Mitch before we went on the air, you really gave us a sense of how horrific not just the situation at the airport was, but just the lives of particularly the woman you profile underneath the Taliban. But anyway, what do you think about what President Trump said? Was this the most embarrassing moment in the history of America, or what?
Oh, geez. I'm really glad Jim mentioned the Doha Agreement that led to all of this, because, where we start history matters. And so in February of 2020, President Trump's administration negotiates an absolutely horrible deal that empowers and emboldens the Taliban. They exclude the Afghan government that's supposed to be our partner. They trigger the release of 5,000 Taliban fighters to rejoin the fight immediately. So by the time the Biden administration takes office in January of 2021, the Taliban is stronger than it has been since December of 2001. And it is at that point contesting or controlling literally half of Afghanistan. So he made a bad deal. He made a terrible deal that was inherited by the Biden administration.
So it was one of the most embarrassing moments, but he was just talking about the wrong thing. Your story is essentially about these two people, Sam Aronson and Omera Kadiri, both of whom are it's hard to believe they are real. Could you start with Sam for a minute and give us a minute or two on how he ended up there in the final days prior to our withdrawal?
Sure. So Sam Aronson is a young Foreign Service officer, a young American diplomat. He is on leave after 2 years in Nigeria. He's just kind of hanging out, going to Martha's Vineyard, seeing friends. But he's allergic to inactivity. And Sam is just a guy who's ambitious but also altruistic. And so when we saw all those scenes on TV of people falling off the wings of airplanes, of women handing babies through barbed wire to American soldiers to try and get into the airport, Sam was watching that too in August of 2021. And he put up his hand. He said, I
volunteered.
Yes, send me. I'll do it. I'll help. And to his surprise, they put him on a plane to Kabul. And before he goes, his wife makes him make 3 promises. She says, Sam, I know you. Don't do anything unnecessarily dangerous. Don't leave the airport. And do not be a hero. And I think he's going to break all of those.
And he does. Tell us about Amira a little bit, who is really another surreal human being. Start at the beginning with her, if you can, for a minute. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, her life really tracks the past 40 years of Afghanistan. As a girl during the Soviet invasion and the Soviet war, she endured, and her family endured, terrible hardships. And then the Taliban comes in, and she resists in her own way by setting up a little school for fellow girls in a mosque. And that's really revealing of her character. And she avoids a forced marriage to a Taliban commander, goes on to get a PhD, she embodies everything we hoped for Afghan women and girls. She writes an incredible book that's here in this library, Dancing in the Mosque.
What a title.
Which, by virtue of that alone, makes her a target for the Taliban. That makes her an infidel to even say such a thing. And so when the Taliban returns, she is absolutely going to be on the top of the hit list.
You talked about, too, in her younger life, that because of the Taliban and the horrible way they treated women, and you had to dress with a burqa, etc., that she would go, some of her friends committed suicide, and she would go visit some of her friends with burns in the hospital.
Self-immolation was the horrible choice for so many young women and girls who felt they were trapped in their house. And after having been able to go to school, they were denied everything. And so that became part of her life, going to visit the burn wards of the Herat hospital. And she had to make a choice. She insisted, I will visit them, I will love them, I will support them, but I will not be among them.
And then when her husband took a second wife, or said, I'm going to take a second wife, what'd she do then?
Incredibly, she opposed it. And, this is, in a patriarchal society, that's not okay. And she says, I won't stand for it. I won't become the first wife. The first wife in this culture is supposed to sort of recede to the background and serve tea at the wedding for the second wife. And he can't believe it. And he said, no, I'm the man in the house. And he exercised his right of triple talaq, which is to say divorce, divorce, divorce by text. And he sent her back to her father's house. And he said, they had a son at this point, Siavash, and she said, your mother is dead. And she fought, and incredibly,
he was 2 at the time, wasn't he? Siavash, 2 years old.
2 years old, and she fights. And this is the extraordinary thing about her. She is a fighter. She's a fierce human being, and she regains custody of him. And now, so when the Taliban returns in 2021, she risks everything because they're not going to recognize a secular court ruling that gave her custody of her son.
That's right.
The father is everything. And so she is she's really between a rock and a hard place because she's become a hugely outspoken advocate. She's on TV all the time. She's a celebrity in Kabul and in Afghanistan. And she wants to advocate for other women like herself So does she stay and risk her life and her son's life, or does she leave and give up all that she has created in this country?
I want you to describe in a second a little bit about that. That to me was the most incredible part, because I think for most of us who live in luxury, like so many of us do here, you say, of course everybody wants to get out. Of course they want to get on those planes like the 100,000+ we're able to do. We're talking to Mitchell Zarkoff. His book is The Secret Gate, a true story of courage and sacrifice during the collapse of Afghanistan. What was the conflict she was going through, Mitch?
Exactly. So, we sort of imagine that, who wouldn't want to come to the United States? But these are not refugees who lost everything in an earthquake or a flood. She had a wonderful life. She had a 4-bedroom apartment overlooking Kabul University. She had achieved all that she had dreamed of. And so to give all of that up, to give up her elderly parents, who she may never see again, to give up her brothers, to give up the women she wanted to advocate for. And she loves her country. She called Kabul John, my dear Kabul.
Yeah.
And so she knew that when she was a little girl, her mother explained to her what it means to be a refugee. And she said, it means being a stranger in a foreign country and dying alone. And those words were resonating in her ears as she had to decide, do I want to rush to the airport or do I want to stay and fight, knowing it might mean my life?
Especially since she has a little kid, by the way, in addition to everything else.
And you know what I thought was incredible? You portrayed very well how many people in Afghanistan didn't see this coming. They thought that the Afghan army, having been trained for 20 years, was going to stand up to the Taliban, and so they stayed.
Yes. Yes. I can almost hear in your question, Marjorie, what we know from the years of the Holocaust.
Yes, same thing.
There's that
the
echo,
Germans. Yeah,
right?
German Jews.
They wouldn't possibly. We're their neighbors. And then it becomes too late for a certain number of people.
Yeah.
And we didn't expect. You have 300,000 Afghan army members trained and equipped by the United States and NATO. We don't expect them to dissolve on contact, but that's what they did. They took off their uniforms. They went home. They said to the Taliban, be my guest. And the Taliban didn't even expect to get to Kabul that quickly. They didn't even know when they got to Kabul on August 15th of 2021, they didn't know what to do. They rushed into the presidential palace, and we saw those images of them with their feet up on the presidential desk. But then they were like, wow, we didn't see this coming either.
Sounds like some other things we didn't see coming, and then with people with their feet up on their desks. The Secret Gate, tell us what when we talk about the dilemma that Omer was going through, I don't want to leave people with the impression, I assume they don't have it because we all remember the exodus there, as if, I'm going to decide whether I stay or do I go. And if I go, I just go. Right. It's not quite, I just go. Explain what Aronson discovered at the Secret Gate, and then what he incredibly did, and then obviously how they connected. Yeah.
Sure. So you remember the scenes. You have tens of thousands of Afghans rushing to the airport trying to escape the Taliban. And so all the main gates, Abbey Gate, North Gate, East Gate, are completely overrun.
And holding onto the planes. Do you remember when they're literally physically holding onto the damn
standing
planes?
on the wings.
Exactly. And so the CIA, which was operating, of course, in Afghanistan at the time, realized that they could create a secret back door to the airport. The far western edge of the airport, there was an unused service road that led to a break in the wall that nobody knew was there. And so the CIA and the Delta Force team and also some Afghan army paramilitary troops created this secret gate, this way in that they could very quickly avoid these tens of thousands of people who they couldn't get through. And so Sam
realized... And intended for whom? Who were the...
Intended for American citizens, green card holders, high-value intelligence assets, and Afghans who were in clear danger for having worked at the embassy.
Because they were translators or whatever,
Right, they worked at our embassy, what have you. And Sam gets there. Sam is sent there one day to help some Afghan embassy employees get through. And he realizes that what he's been going through has been excruciating for him because he's been forced to separate extended families. He's been forced to sort of follow rules that are shifting day by day. But when he gets to this secret gate, this glory gate as they called it, he realizes, wait a second, I can go off book here. I can follow my conscience and not a set of bureaucratic rules sent to me from Washington that is going to change tomorrow anyway. And he sort of gives up any expectation that he thinks his career is going to be over, and maybe his life's going to be over, because he's now broken those promises I mentioned to his wife. He's outside the walls of the airport. There are Afghan army fighters firing above the crowd as crowd control. There's gunfire. I have a little film of it, and it sounds like a constant barrage of AK fire. It's crazy.
So it's there, as Marjorie intimated, where they make your two main, they're not characters, they're the two main people who you write about, connect. And again, describe is in as much detail as you want, that incredible thing.
Sure.
Getting to her, arranging with her to do it, all that kind of thing.
So, because there were so many people trying to get out, little networks formed around the world of people trying to reach someone who was on the ground at the airport. Can you get my friend, my translator, this endangered Afghan woman? And one of these networks formed around Omira. And so she became the center of an international effort to save her. And so one of the people involved in that effort was her literary agent, Marley Rustoff. And Marley sent all kinds of emails, tried everything fails. And then the Abbey Gate bombing happens, and everything shuts down. And Marley tries one last thing. She reaches out to her college boyfriend from more than 50 years earlier. Her college boyfriend had incredibly gone on to become an ambassador under President Obama. And so she thought maybe he knew some people.
To Norway, though, or something
Norway,
like that.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Nowhere near Afghanistan, right. And can maybe Sam Hines reach someone in the State Department? And it just so happens Sam Hines, this former ambassador, knows his former assistant, Jim DeHart, is on the ground in Kabul. He sends the email to Jim. Jim hands it off to this young diplomat, Sam Aronson. And Sam is like, well, everything's shut down. I can't possibly do this. This woman doesn't qualify under any of today's rules. She's not a special immigrant visa holder. She isn't a translator. But he just decides, let me just try. Let me call her. So he uses a burner phone, and he reaches her and says, hi, this is Sam. It's like Uncle Sam is calling, literally. And if you can get to the airport in the next 2 hours, I will try. And it's literally the last night of the evacuation. There are only a few planes left. There are no seats left. He's going to have to find her and her son a seat on this plane. And she insists on bringing her brother. And so he tells her, go to this transit point at this gas station near the entrance to the secret gate, because it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have nobody. Just go to the Panjshir pump, and I'll send a guy who can meet you. And so it's night that they're using a signal from summer camp of a flashlight through my fingers and night vision goggles. And I'm not a good enough writer to make this up. I mean, I accept that. And so incredibly, with people firing over their heads, Sam goes out into the street, and there are a tremendous number of people. There's Taliban milling around. There's Afghan army folks who are trying to figure out their own way out, because they realize the window is closing for them too. And so Sam has to go out into the street to bring in Omira.
It's just unbelievable. Talking to Mitchell Zuckoff, the book is The Secret Gate, a true story of courage, and boy, is it ever, and sacrifice during the collapse of Afghanistan.
So how'd they fit onto the plane?
Sam decided, he said, I've broken every other rule. So when he brings them back to the terminal, and he lies to the intake people and claims they're a special interest case, which is a way of kind of indicating that he had authority from the White House.
Oh, okay.
And he's, in for a dime, in for a dollar at that point. And so he finds a way to get them onto this plane, and they are taken out, and they get to Qatar, and then on from there to the United States.
You mentioned a minute ago, he said, my career is going to be over for having done this. Did you think at points he was going to die?
Yes.
Or did he did?
Absolutely. There were multiple moments where there's one moment. So he was working with a young man, Assad, who was a tremendously brave Afghan translator who became Sam's partner in this effort. And Assad was doing it because he wanted to get in his sister's husband, and their 2 children. And there's gunfire, and Sam goes out and grabs Assad's sister and turns his back to the gunfire. thinking, I know I have to take this. And thankfully, he wasn't. But that was one of a dozen moments Sam thought my life is about to end.
When you first met him, it's hard to say if you didn't know the story, but for a second, did you see him as the kind of person who would have the courage and recklessness both at the same time to do these heroic things?
Such a good question, Jim. You meet Sam and you come upon a guy who is squared away. And you kind of, you come across these people once in a while. Some of the men I wrote about Benghazi had that same quiet confidence who you just feel like, if I'm putting together a zombie apocalypse team, I know you're both on it. I mean it. But,
I think not, my friend.
But Sam is a guy you're gonna say yes. This guy is going to be just capable, and he is smart, and he's got all these qualities we look for.
So where is Humira now?
So incredibly, she is here in Boston. She was awarded, again, she's a brilliant woman, and so she was awarded a fellowship at Harvard University. And she's finishing that fellowship, and she's going on to another fellowship at Yale University.
Oh, excellent.
She's just, she's exactly what we hoped for women of Afghanistan, that they could achieve all that they were capable of.
And how's her little boy?
He's great. I saw him 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
And at a library talk, and Siavash is great, and he's thriving. He is, he's been through a lot, and so that's something that they'll have to manage. But you meet him, and he's just this bright, articulate, active, wonderful 9-year-old boy.
And Sam's working at what, a 7-Eleven now, or what's he doing?
But Sam, it's interesting. Sam came back. He's left the State Department. He became disillusioned after everything he encountered on the ground, and he decided,
encountered what? Rigidity, lack of humanity. What was the thing?
Bureaucracy.
All of that. So I gained access surreptitiously to an internal State Department town hall meeting a couple of weeks ago. And there, Ambassador John Bass, who was leading the effort on the ground in Kabul, said we didn't have the right mindset, the right resources, or the right approach. And so, having experienced that in a way that did put his life at risk, and he witnessed terrible things, he decided, I'm glad I did this, but I need to make a change. And he's now working for a tech company on a global response team.
You at the beginning commented on Trump's horrible deal that essentially led to this. How do you judge Biden's performance in the withdrawal?
I'm glad you asked that, because I think there's blame to go around here. Omira, one day, she was trying to get to Abbey Gate, and she said something that really stuck with me, which is, America has a deadline, but they don't have a plan. And I think that's a fair criticism of the Biden administration, that they inherited a terrible hand, but they chose to play it. And when President Biden in April of 2020 said, we're going to withdraw, nobody was against it. People agreed we needed to get out after 20 years.
Longest war.
2,400 American dead, tens of thousands of Afghan dead, $2 trillion. So it was time. But how we do it, and I think implicitly by the way the effort in Somalia, the effort in Sudan, the effort in Ukraine, the lessons are being learned, but that should not have happened the way it did.
What does Humira think is the future of Afghanistan?
It's a great question, Marjorie. She is determined to see democracy and a republic government returned to Afghanistan. She doesn't know, but she's not going to stop fighting for that. And she's worried because right now I saw her the other night, and she was talking to me. 5 million Afghan girls and women are being denied an education right now. People are starving there, and our eyes have averted, and we are looking elsewhere. So she won't stop fighting, and she just hopes we will too.
By the way, we should say, in addition to this book being brilliantly put together and written, it reads like a thriller. For those who haven't gotten it yet,
it reads like really, a movie, Mitch.
Hey, but we have on a number of occasions talked to Seth Moulton about his relationship with his translator, who he got to this country. And when you hear him talk about him, the intimacy, the What's the relationship like with Sam and O'Meara?
They have a wonderfully warm relationship. They just reunited a few days ago.
Oh my God!
And
were you there for that?
I was not, unfortunately. It was down in Washington, but I saw the video of it, and I'm about to start weeping.
Me too.
They had been exchanging texts for the past year and a half and photos, and she's constantly updating. And so Sam's wife just had a baby last week, and one of the first people he sent a picture to was O'Meara.
Yeah.
And,
Has she forgiven him for breaking all those promises and almost leaving her a widow?
Liana has. Yeah. She has. She's a remarkable. She's just the right person for Sam to be married to. But what is success has 1,000 fathers.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Right.
That's right.
And so,
I have one last question. Because women in Afghanistan did have this opportunity to go to school and to advance their careers and dance and all those things, you wonder whether eventually there's going to be some kind of revolution against the Taliban running everything there. Do you think?
That's actually where O'Meara puts her hope, that she feels that the women of Afghanistan have to save the country. Because right now, between ISIS-K, which is opposed to the Taliban, but they're no better,
right?
The only hope is the 5 million women, and so I trust her, and I think we will see that. I hope in our lifetimes.
So do we.
Well, it's
great piece of work there.
It's a wonderful book. It is a page turner, as we say. Great. So congratulations to you, former Globe reporter. See how these Globe reporters can really make out when they move on. We've been speaking with BU.
Whatever happened to Brian McGorry when he left the Globe?
Yeah, that's right.
Never heard from him again.
Never heard from him again.
He's at BU too, by the way.
He's my new boss.
Yeah, new boss. That's right. That's right. Great guy.
Yes.
Okay. We've been speaking with BU journalism professor and best-selling author Mitch Zuckoff. His new book is The Secret Gate, a true story of courage and sacrifice during the collapse of Afghanistan. Congratulations again. This is a great read, a great book. And I'm hoping it is going to be a great movie. After a quick break, it is time for
A new documentary looks at actor Michael J. Fox's life and career, which changed dramatically after he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it even makes you sad sometimes, and sometimes it makes you angry. But it's my life. I'm
Mary Louise Kelly. Michael J. Fox tells his story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you and the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds for the citizens and businesses of the Commonwealth. You can see if you have unclaimed money at findmassmoney.com. And Johnson & Wales University, striving for impact inside and outside the classroom with internships, hands-on learning, and industry-experienced faculty. You can explore more at jwu.edu. And Sunbug Solar, a full-service local solar energy company committed to being a renewable energy partner that guides homeowners and businesses through the solar process, from consultation to installation. Learn more at sunbugsolar.com. And Mitsubishi Electric, providing homeowners access to heating and cooling solutions with electric heat pump systems that can also achieve their sustainability goals. Learn more at mitsubishicomfort.com/NPR.
Trusted, local,
news. You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marge Regan and Jim Browder. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. We'll be joined by the mayor probably 1, 2, or 3 minutes. If you want to line up with calls or questions on text, you can do that now at 877-301-8970. You know, one of the things I'm sure you're going to talk about, Marjorie, that police contract that you've talked to the mayor about repeatedly is getting richer and richer after this court verdict of the other day.
Well, this is something that the Globe had an editorial about this, basically, that these Boston police officers were acquitted in this overtime fraud case, where they were basically charging the city for hours they didn't work. And the reason they get off...
Not because they didn't do it, right?
Because their defense was, hey, everybody's doing it. Everybody's cheating. You know, none of our superiors told us not to do this. This is kind of the way it works around here. So it was, I think, a very pretty heavy indictment. I think the figure was $250,000 worth of overtime. And it was just involving a few officers. So the things...
By the way, we should be clear, that's not hyperbole on your part. They did it. There was no denial. The defense was essentially, maybe simplified.
Everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it.
Yeah. I mean, we've had this for a long time. I think the worst case we ever saw was, I think it was at the city of Gloucester.
It was Gloucester. I know what you're talking about. That was 8 hours, right?
Right, yeah. So the deal was up in Gloucester. Say you have a funeral and you want to get a police officer down the direct traffic for the funeral. So the cop has to show up for a half an hour. He get paid for 8 hours, even though he's only there for a half an hour. Now in Boston, I believe it's 4 hours.
4 hours, I think it is.
But the problem in this particular case is that the officers were supposed to be doing this particular bit of overtime. Were out arresting people and issuing tickets and citations. So they weren't working at all. But as the Globe had an editorial about this, I mean, the basic bottom line in the case was, hey, everybody does it. So the jury decided it was okay, and it did cost taxpayers more than $250,000 for these hours not actually worked, and it was just 4 police officers costing that amount of money. That's a lot of money for 4 officers.
And is the story? I can't remember. I know.
Oh, wait a minute. It was 15 in total that got added up to $250,000.
And did the mayor say, we'll ask her in a second, that it would be a subject in the negotiations or no?
Well, she said yes, she did. She said the contract negotiations with all City of Boston police unions are focused on controlling routine overtime abuse and misuse in a variety of settings. The mayor is here now, so we can ask her about this in just a couple of minutes.
So here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
We're joined at the Boston Public Library by a really accomplished pianist at the Boston Symphony. Here it is. I'll tell you, whoever that is really good. It's Mozart's Viromatic. What'd you say? Oh, it's the mayor of Boston.
The mayor of Boston.
Playing at
That's
the BSO in the concert for the city.
You know,
Mayor Wu, it's a pleasure to have you. Congratulations.
Nice to see you. I mean, that was just, I could do anything else in the world, and my parents, this is the one thing.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Forget being mayor. The BSO, playing with the BSO. But I got to tell you, that was very depressing to the rest of us, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, she's the mayor. That's a little time-consuming. She's got 2 little kids. That's a little time-consuming. And here she is performing with the BSO. I mean, you know,
what an incredible...
You've ruined the bar. You know what I mean? You raised
what an
the bar.
incredible experience. I mean, just I will never forget that moment of being on the stage, the sound of this premier world-class orchestra, and the fact that they were not only stooping down to allow an amateur to play with them, but opening up at that concert. That is their free concert, where the whole program was Boston connected, or there was a Lowell and a Chelsea, but area connected composers or artists and collaborators showcasing the history of the organization. Young people were throughout the halls throughout the rooms of Symphony Hall beforehand, performing, and it's just, we're so lucky and blessed in Boston to have such institutions really deeply embedded in the fabric of our community.
Were you terrified Were you terrified?
Oh, I was terrified. I mean, terrified like nothing else. So one more, my hands were clammy.
Did you pick the second movement of the Mozart
No,
Overture, or did they?
They did.
They did. It was a
I
great choice.
I had not actually played a lot of Mozart before. So they suggested that. They suggested the slow movement, thankfully, of that.
So you have to
piano
worry about
concerto.
crashing your scales
That's
for
right.
days before. Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I had never played it before, but it's, you've heard the theme in different
Oh yeah,
places and movies
that
and things like
tearjerker
that.
movie,
Yeah.
Elvira Madigan. That is a real tearjerker.
You know, staying on the arts for a second, I can't remember who it was, whether it was Keith Lockhart, Andres Nelson, whoever it was, talked about your commitment to the arts, and I think is one pretty important piece of proof. Tell us briefly about this affordable rehearsal space that's being made to a bunch of artists.
Yeah, we're really excited about the chance to, in some ways, start pushing back against the wave of incredibly stressful displacements of our artist community. When we see, the stresses that we see in the housing market, we feel in our small business community, we feel in artist studio and space. And so there have been some pockets now where, thanks to some good luck and the sheer tenacity of artists, different pockets of communities have been able to organize. The Humphrey Street Studios, for example, in Upham's Corner, a group of artists worked with the city and actually were able to purchase their own building instead of getting pushed out. We have some examples in Fort Point where Midway Studios, the same thing had happened. But this one is part of an official city development approval process where the redevelopment in Alston Brighton will actually create a whole new building that is dedicated for studio space. And it will take a little bit of time to renovate. We found temporary space for the transition, but this just is reflecting a new approach that we have, that arts has to be firmly part of how we do development.
That's Mayor Wu. She'll be with us for the next hour. By the way, if you're at the library, Hannah, do you want to raise your hand over there, or a coworker? If you go to Hannah and you have a question for the mayor, depending on whatever it is, you may very well get to ask her directly. Can we go from something incredibly exhilarating to something wildly depressing? There was a story this morning on BUR about a report coming out of your Boston Public Health Commission, which sort of paralleled one of the major themes in Ayanna Pressley's first campaign for Congress, where she'd say there's no greater age disparity in America within a congressional district. When you get on a bus in one part of my district, and then you get off a bus in another thing. Could you fill in the blanks on this horrifying analysis about Back Bay versus Nubian Square?
Yeah, we see life expectancy, or again, averages, but life expectancy experience a gap of multiple decades. And that same historic disinvestment that led us to this point in terms of redlining and gaps in home ownership and wealth building, or the presence of or lack of tree canopy, and therefore the temperature difference in a neighborhood that has much more pavement rather than more green space and trees. This is the fabric that was built up through policy decisions over many, many decades. And the pandemic not only revealed to many, not those who've been living it, but to the world, but also deepened and exacerbated so many of the gaps and challenges. And so we're really galvanized to take up the urgency in this moment. Everything that we're doing on the housing side, on public health and education, jobs, safety, it is all interconnected, and really trying to focus our efforts so that we can close gaps where they have been built up over a long time.
92 years in the Back Bay and 69 years in Nubian Square. I mean, it's just
it's wrong and it's unacceptable.
It's unconscionable. I mean, it's just.
Mayor, when you were on your way in, we were talking about this case of the Boston police officers. 3 former members and 1 current officer in the Boston Police Department were recently acquitted of this overtime fraud charges. And the defense was basically, as the Globe put it, everybody does it, so it's okay. A lawyer for one of the officers said that in practice, cheating on overtime, he didn't call it cheating on overtime, but what was done was cheating on overtime. He called it a time-honored tradition that officers would, and did submit in 4-hour conspiracies. Another attorney called it the culture there, which I think is probably true, because we've heard about this kind of thing for quite some time. This isn't the first time it's happened. You said you have to really control this abuse and misuse. But it is the culture, and it's hard to change that culture.
We are still I feel like every time I come, it's a little bit of a report on contract negotiations as well. And As mentioned previously, overtime and how we are treating overtime and the buckets available and how those are managed, that is very much defined by the provisions in the contract in a lot of ways. And so that is a central part of our negotiations. But it also has to be lived out every day in the management and therefore culture that is set across the agency. So it's not enough just to change rules or not enough just to think about a culture while there are still loopholes that exist on the contract side. You have to do both. And that is what I know Commissioner Cox has been putting in place the steps to do and build out his leadership team to make happen.
You know, you said to Marjorie several months ago about the contract, I don't know if you used these words, but you basically said this arbitration and restoration of police officers who've been found to have committed fireable offenses is a red line item for you. There'll be no deal without some reform there. Do you feel the same way about this overtime thing?
Yes.
You do?
Yep. On discipline, on overtime especially, and I want to be clear, this is not about trying to punish or make examples of particular individuals or trying to remove the ability for someone to access what they thought was a part of the job, even if it was by culture. It has a real impact on the operations of the department when individuals are able to, and now a significant portion, when we first started really doing the measuring, it was up to 10% of the patrol force was out for a year plus on medical leave. And everyone is legally required and deserves their support for when there are medical situations that come up, but we need to have some protocols in place, some mechanisms to decide if it is still appropriate for someone to remain on the job, because when they do stay out indefinitely, in some cases, the burden gets put on other officers to then need to stretch and do overtime, and then it ripples throughout. And so this is about having the staffing that's available to do the work that we need to be done, to support the health and well-being of those officers who are on the job, and that's really what at the core all of these issues are about.
One or two more quick police things, and then we promise we'll get to the calls at 877-301-8970. Do you have any update on this this status of this Captain Danilecki situation? A guy who's been accused on multiple occasions of excessive force. Something is pending. I think a decision ultimately by the commissioner has been pending forever. In fairness to Commissioner Cox, he's relatively new to the job. Any update on that or no?
I do not have an update today.
Okay, and also last thing, some budget cuts in the police budget are being proposed by members of the council. Are they ones you could support?
I have not seen the proposals yet. I think we're just starting the hearing process for the budget at this moment. We will get the official proposed amendments back sometime in June, I believe.
Let's go to the calls. Grady, you're in Charlestown. You're on with the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. Hi there, Grady.
Thank you very much, sir. Hello, Madam Mayor.
Hello.
I'm calling it with the question about capital expenditures versus maintenance costs. For example, in Charlestown, there was a beautiful little bronze fountain installed in Thompson Square a number of years ago. And a number of years ago, it stopped working. Contact the city, could you repair it? The response is, it's got to go into the budget, as if it's a capital item, in my opinion. But in the meantime, no one is maintaining it. Same thing applies to the many broken sidewalks in Boston, some of which, if you go out your back door, you see at the beginning of Quincy Market.
Grady, what's your question, if you can? What do you want to ask the mayor?
My question is, how can we get sidewalks repaired without hearing that it's going to be a year, 2, 3, 4 wait?
Grady, thank you. We appreciate your call.
Okay, got it. And I'm curious now about this little bronze fountain as well. I'm going to look into that in Thompson Square additionally. I think, it can, obviously you need both components of it. We have the facilities, whether that is a building or a structure like a fountain, and then the personnel needed to actually staff the fixing or maintaining of these items. And then I guess another bucket is the funding overall, so that any changes that needed, new parts or other pieces can actually happen. We are really focused on trying to get down into the nuts and bolts of having clear maintenance plans for all of our public assets in the city. That has not been the case, and previously, in case you're interested, the way that it had been structured was each department would have a little pool, a very, very small bucket of money, basically, that they could be used for any repairs that were needed, and they really had to prioritize the most urgent of challenges. That meant that many things that were less urgent would get worse, and until they could get into that point where they were at the top of the list, but by that point it cost even more to repair it than it would have been if we had just put in the maintenance money to begin with. And so we really want to take on a much more professional real estate portfolio management philosophy where every single asset that exists, whether it's a pool or a community center or a park with a fountain, has dedicated funding going to the maintenance on a regular basis for that specific structure so that it's not all pooled and then creating strange and in fact more expensive incentives for the city overall. In terms of sidewalks, I've learned a lot about sidewalks. Depending on where you are, I just took a walk down Temple Street with leaders from the Independent Living Center, and I'm blanking on the full name, Disability Independent Living Center downtown. And what we saw was a patchwork where the city had a portion of the sidewalk, then some private owners have what are called area ways. There's actually a space below the sidewalk, given how old the buildings were and how the streets were constructed on top of them. So we actually don't have the legal authority to go in and fix that because it might cause collapse or something to their structure underneath, so we have to get them to sign up. Anyway, we are in the middle of a revamp to really understand how we can have better leverage and control over all the sidewalks in the public way, because it is quite complicated in certain very historic locations. And so I suspect that Charlestown might have some issues, but if we can follow up with you and understand where exactly your sidewalks are a challenge, I'll try to get a better answer on the timeline.
Hey, Grady, you hung up. If you text us at 877-301-8970 with your contact information, we'll pass it along to the mayor.
Mayor Wu, the Title 42, that border control policy that was begun by the Trump administration, continued by President Biden, expired, I think it was midnight last night. Scenes from the border. There are tens of thousands of people trying to get into the country. But there's an impact here in Boston. One of your people in your administration talked about all these people coming into the emergency rooms at Boston Medical Center. A texter was concerned about people coming into Chelsea. So what's happening?
Yeah, we really have been experiencing, as every city across the country, a crisis when it comes to migrant families who are a little bit stuck in limbo. Every person, every human being has the legal right to come to the United States and seek asylum or shelter, and those policies have been in place for a long time. But when the review of that individual's particular situation and the then decision to allow the pathway to stay and or work authorization that comes along with that, when that process is so drawn out, people are stuck. They are looking to work, looking to contribute, looking to be in a safe democracy where they can raise their families. And we at the city level are now dealing with many of the impacts of the processes having people fall through the cracks at the federal level. So we're working very closely with the state. This is affecting municipalities across the Commonwealth to be able to triage the situation, create temporary housing so that families can get settled, and then into more of the official channels for access to health care or services, to be able to legal support to accelerate a work authorization as possible.
Explain that, why they can't work.
So without official documentation that, there are many pathways to being able to work in this country, of course, citizenship and having your social security number and documentation as a United States citizen, having legal status through a different immigration pathway, or even if you are sometimes in the process of getting your case to be heard, there are mechanisms for work authorization to be given as well. But each one of those requires human beings at the federal level to go through documents for many, many, many people. And it is now in the timeline I'm hearing it can be up to a year to hear back if you are able to work or not. And in the meantime, everyone has to find a way to support their family. And we're hearing from our partners on the ground that those families who have been able to get that authorization, it is amazing. They're filling important staffing shortages that the city and our society has. Their families are adjusting really well, and everyone is just so hungry to be part of community here. But without that official pathway, it makes it very difficult. And we are, again, collaborating very closely with the state, but this is an issue that will continue, it sounds like, only to ramp up.
We're talking to celebrated pianist and also mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. Mono, you're on from Charlestown. Hello there, Mono.
A very good afternoon, Marjorie, Jim, Mayor Wu.
Hello.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for taking my call. My name is Mano, and my daughter, now a sixth grader, has been a BPS since kindergarten. She's a straight-A student, hard worker. But despite that, last Friday at 4:45 p.m., she was told that she wasn't good enough for her first choice of exam school, which was BLS. An hour later, she found out that a neighborhood friend was invited to BLS, even though that friend has lower grades and test scores than her. Now, obviously, as you can imagine, she naturally came to me, asked why, and blamed me for it. Well, that's like every other 12-year-old would. Now, I can talk to her about equity. I can talk to her about how unfair the system used to be. But this friend is the same race as my daughter, and her family in the same economic situation as us. So we really appreciate it, Mayor Wood, if you help me answer that why. But know that BPS did respond to us after several calls and emails to tell us that despite all the embarrassing mistakes that they've made, the policy was applied properly to my daughter. And also please respect the fact that she's a child and do not call her an unintended consequence like one of your school committee members did a few weeks ago.
Wow.
Mono, thanks.
Mano, I'm so sorry, and I have a little bit of a sense of how stressful this particular point in life and thinking about your child's education is, with some experiences in my own family. And I know that for a parent, there's nothing more devastating than feeling like you disappointed your child in some way. I want your daughter to understand that we are dedicated to making sure that opportunities at every school are great and supportive. And at this moment, it may feel like, a lot of people are saying there's only one school or one pathway or this or that. That's the right way. I'm happy to try to make sure there's some more conversations that happen in particular around your specific situation, so we can understand what exactly your daughter was given the opportunity for, or what happened there, and help you understand what the offerings are. I will say I feel the urgency because this will not be in place for your daughter for this year and the transition to 7th grade. We're working as quickly as we can because it is just, we are never going to be a district that serves every family, and that can be the draw to be the best place to raise a family, unless our school system feels like it's not a lottery for a winning ticket only if you can get into a very narrow set of schools. Every single option, especially for our high schools, needs to be something that we are proud of, and this has been the big focus. We're kind of working to expand early education and care, thinking about curriculum across the board, and particularly special education or English language learners. But then on the high schools, this is where many of the disparities end up playing out. And so there needs to be, you live, it sounds like very close to Charlestown High School, right? You have a building and a community in your neighborhood that we need to make sure has every resource so that you would feel every bit as excited to have a different opportunity. We're not there yet for many of our schools because of the state of the buildings, because of historic disinvestment. And Charlestown High School is one of the places that I have my eye on because we need geographically to have these options for predictable pathways to great options in every part of the city. So happy to make sure that someone really walks through the specific situation and what the choice is before your family and for your daughter. And I'm sorry that it is taking some time, but please make sure that she knows that I hear her experience, and this is a priority to make sure that we are correcting this so that there are many, many options that people feel excited about in the future.
So Mano should stay on the line and Mano, if you stay on, one of my coworkers will get your contact information and share it with the mayor. Thank you,
Mayor,
for your call.
we heard the upset in Mano's voice trying to explain this to his daughter.
Yeah.
Just a few weeks ago, the Globe reported on how they sent out the wrong acceptances to Boston Latin School.
It wasn't acceptances, but
what was it? Explain that story.
So, and first, okay, so the big picture is that for a very long time, Boston has been a district where, for many, many families, I have heard, and again, I raised my youngest sister through middle school and high school here. We heard the same things, that you can get into this one school or these 3 schools, and if not, you have to find a way to pay for education or something like that. We have 25 high schools in Boston. We are putting the resources across the city, and they all need to be those excellent options. And there's no way to get to an equitable or fair system by adjusting this or that bit in the lottery or the admissions process, as long as we have too few seats that are considered really excellent and desirable relative to the number of high school students that we have. So that's the big picture. What happened with exam schools a couple weeks ago was there are multiple stages in the process. Students have to take a test and have their grades averaged for acceptance into the exam schools. They're analyzed based on geographic tiers that are roughly correlated with socioeconomic data, and then according to those tiers to ensure geographic and socioeconomic equity in representation across each of our exam schools. That's how the invitations go out.
Okay.
This year, the phasing back in of testing requirements and grades and all of that meant that the calculations were averaged it's too technical to get all the way into there. They should have been averaged grade by grade and by subject rather than all together. It was a different averaging mechanism that was slightly different from what was publicly stated as the policy. They caught that at the point where students had been asked, after they were, all of their data was analyzed, they get asked to rank their top choices in the exam schools, 1, 2, 3, out of which one. And some of them were invited to rank schools who should not, a very small number, I think it was about 24 students, and then some were actually not invited to apply even though they did qualify according to the slightly different averaging mechanism. So those students and families were all informed before any enrollment decisions were made or taken into account. But still, again, this is such a fraught and emotionally charged experience for families to have any sense of instability, even if it wasn't that you officially had anything set. It's still something that shouldn't have happened, and we've corrected this for the future.
We're talking to Mayor Wu. She'll be with us at the bottom of the next hour. Before we take a break, Mayor Wu, I think it's fair to say you're a good government type. And I'm sure you read the story in the Globe this morning about the former superintendent-in-chief of the Boston Police and former brother-in-law, the Secretary of Transportation, getting a nearly $1 million no-bid, I repeat, no-bid contract to do some work for the MBTA. What's your reaction when you read about those kinds of things?
I mean, it's hard to, I think sometimes we say the T needs to be fixed immediately, everything's a crisis, but then we also want to make sure that all of the, that the mechanisms for emergency, urgency are only used in certain situations in a new administration. I don't know if they had all the protocols in place, and I haven't really gotten a direct conversation to have any inside information or insight. I do know that what it feels like this situation reflects is that we have not had a clear plan for the T. We have not had any sense of prioritization, including with public conversation around whether some kind of strategy for personnel should have been ranking in the top of what the emergency was, or whether it was solely about infrastructure or hiring this or that person. I know that the program that they're looking to implement around CompStat, we use in the police department in Boston. It's a very effective program. The now secretary, former city official, knows that well as well and knows the benefits of it. But we had to be focused on earning trust at a time when the T is needing a lot of emergency lifelines, including for people to even believe that this is a system where we can see progress.
I don't want to dwell on this, but doesn't it feed the exact opposite notion that it's not what you know, it's who you know? I mean, the average person gets up with, they'll hear about this. It's Bill Bratton may be a very competent person. He got a no-bid contract from his former sister-in-law. I mean, it's troubling, right?
Yeah, I mean, public officials are subject to everyone in public service should be subject to the highest standards when it comes to making sure we're following all the right procedures. I don't know in this case if something was officially tripped up legally or not.
Talking to Mayor Wu.
Well, Bill Bratton said he did very well in all his multiple divorces. I think he's on his fourth wife now.
He did say that, actually,
so he said
in the
he
Globe story.
kept good relations with the families of his ex-wives. So good for him in that regard, I guess. We're talking to Mayor Wu. She's with us until the top of the hour. No, the bottom of the hour.
Too.
At the Boston Public Library. You can call her or text her. We'll try to get to as many calls and texts as we can. 877-301-8970. You can watch her on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. You're listening to Boston Public Radio.
A new documentary looks at actor Michael J. Fox's life and career, which changed dramatically after he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's even makes you sad sometimes, and sometimes it makes you angry. But it's my life. I'm
Mary Louise Kelly. Michael J. Fox tells his story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and Hebrew Senior Life, a Harvard Medical School affiliate empowering seniors to reach their full potential through senior living, healthcare, aging research, and more. You can consider Hebrew Senior Life at allweareforyou.org. And South County, Rhode Island, featuring 100 miles of coastline and 20 public beaches. South County visitors can find many ways to enjoy the water in the Ocean State. Learn more at southcountyri.com.
Trusted. Local news. You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you?
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie are live at the Boston Public Library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. The mayor of the city of Boston will be here for another half hour for her monthly Ask the Mayor. Lynn, watching on YouTube, posts no cupcakes, no buns, no cookies, nothing. They will not invite Mayor Wu back. Well, there's some truth in that. Where are the
I do
cookies?
have my show and tell.
What do you have?
It's green today, so.
What is it?
I don't think they're edible, but who knows? So the show and tell for today is two plant. Okay, let me back up. Today we announced a Boston Tree Alliance. 60% of Boston's tree canopy is actually on private property compared to street trees or our parks. So we at the city side, we have a new forestry division. We're hard at work. We've built out the capacity to support all the street trees and park trees. But a lot of what we hear from homeowners or residents who have trees in their yards is sometimes trees get cut down because they're starting to buckle up against the foundation or they're dropping things over to the neighbor's yard, they're a nuisance, when in fact what is needed is just some support with pruning or maintenance. And so the Tree Alliance will focus on private property and helping, led by Mass Audubon, funded by the city, to provide the support for anyone who needs to maintain the trees and or grow and plant them on their own property. As part of that announcement, we celebrated the planting of a microforest at the Boston Nature Center. And so these are two of the native species that are part of that microforest. One for each of you. One is a sweet everlasting, which has white flowers coming out. And then this one is Tiarella cordifolia. So it's textured maple leaf ground cover. So this is something that you would find in the woods in Massachusetts. So.
I love ground cover.
Very kind.
I do. I'm very into ground cover. It makes it your little. If you have
Very
mulch
kind.
instead of grass, you can put that down there. Thank you very much. I'm an aspiring gardener.
Do we have a question?
Yes, we do. We have Anita. She's at the Boston Public Library. A microphone. You're
Hi,
on.
Anita.
Thank you very much, Anita, for coming on, asking a question
Thank
to
you
Mayor
for having
Wu.
me. Hi, Mayor Wu.
Hello.
I have a question regarding regarding bike lanes in Boston. I heard recently that there was some safety issues with the planning or the implementation of them. Is there an update on how things are going?
Are you thinking about a particular spot in the city or just overall?
Overall. I heard that there was, and it might have been on your show, I'm not sure, but that there might be some safety issues with them and what they might be, and if there's any ongoing thoughts about the design of them.
I see. We are a city where we're adding population, we are growing, and if that growth of people and new housing only comes with people being able to get around in cars, we are going to be in big trouble. Our traffic patterns are already starting to creep back up to where they were pre-pandemic, which was Boston being the most congested city at rush hour anywhere in the country. And so we need to create opportunities for people who are interested and want them to take other means of transportation, public transit and the T, as we've talked about, bikes, walking, and to think about neighborhoods that people don't have to only go to one place in the city to access something that you need, that there's really that availability and accessibility across all parts of the city. Bike lanes are really important in that way. And so as we build out streets, we want to take a complete streets approach to them so that we're protecting all road users. And I know it can, sometimes I hear, is it safe if there's a bike lane for pedestrians who are trying to cross the street, or we've had a lot of conversations lately between our Commission for Persons with Disabilities and the Streets Department, who are making bike changes because we want to make sure that the bike lanes aren't taking over a loading zone for someone who might need to access a parking spot that is reserved for someone with disabilities. And if the lane is there, then they can't actually, in a wheelchair, come out of the vehicle that they've arrived in. And so we're working on all the little details. Bike lanes are a mechanism that we very much need in the city to expand transportation, and we want to do it in a way that fits with every other need that we have.
Anita, thank you very much. Let's go to JP. Susan, you're on with the mayor. Hey.
Hi. Hi, Mayor. Hello. And Jim and Marjorie.
Hi.
I want to say, first of all, that I'm really happy about the tree policy, but that's not what I called about. I have a seemingly trivial Boston Public Schools issue. So I've had kids, I just went through a quick list. I think I've been in 13 different schools. I've had kids in BPS for a long, long time. And the little things can drive you mad.
Yeah.
So my youngest child is graduating in June and going on to college, and a success story. And the graduation is going to be at White Stadium, which seats 10,000 people. And no one can tell us how many tickets we have, but the rumors are somewhere between 6 and 10.
Okay.
This is stupid. We have people coming in from out of town. We can't even tell them if they can go in the graduation.
How many tickets are you trying to get, Susan?
25.
25. Okay. Oh, Susan, you don't fool around.
You asked.
I was just curious.
I mean, I don't want them just for me.
Yeah.
I want them for other people, too. It's ridiculous that we can't, have either some good number, like 25, or open the doors. And they don't open the doors because of this mostly unreasonable fear of what it means to get a bunch of BPS parents and students in the same space.
Susan, you're my kind of caller. You made your case.
Hey, Susan.
Is she getting the 25 tickets or what?
So I want to say something about White Stadium because this is a good connection.
Is it Franklin Park? Is that, that's what I thought.
It's in Franklin Park. It's a treasure for the city.
And it's going to be renovated, and it doesn't really have 25,000 usable seats. I mean, 10,000
okay, Susan, let's hear from the mayor.
Yeah,
here.
the capacity is 10,000, but because of a fire at this point many decades ago, one entire half of the grandstands is unusable. It's structurally deficient and has been for a long, long time. So the max capacity is 5,000 on the other side, and that will have to include students, faculty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, those numbers can go quickly. We've been using White Stadium. Fenway sometimes when they're available has been great for graduations because they have some more room as well. I will look into this particular situation because you called and see what we can do, but we do need to renovate White Stadium as one of the signature gathering spaces in the city. Our hope is that with the RFP that's already out now, we could partner. There's some really exciting potential partners. We've been talking about what it would mean for Boston Public Schools and youth sports to bring a professional women's soccer team back to Boston. They disbanded a number of years ago, and this is such a growing area of interest in terms of soccer in our city and young people, but also women's soccer especially is just taking off internationally. And so the chance to renovate the stadium, to fix all the grandstands, to rebuild the training facilities and locker rooms, to put a real professional track in, an 8-lane track, so we can host events there. There's lots of opportunities to make that space one that will not only host graduations with enough seats and tickets for everyone, but bring a lot of opportunity for our students to learn.
Susan, don't go away.
Susan, I want to tell you something. In hoity-toity Brookline, guess how many tickets you get for high school graduations over there? Four.
Because you don't have Lake Stadium.
That's right.
No, you're why? Because you don't have Susan. That's one of the parents. That's what. Susan, stay on hold, and we'll give your contact information to the mayor. Mayor,
I'm sorry. I love at graduations? Have you noticed if you go to graduations lately? I felt like I was a deadbeat parent because I didn't do this. They have these pictures of the kids blown up, like about 10 times the size of the kid.
Great.
And the whole family's waving the pictures of the kids back and forth.
The best.
I felt like a real loser. And then you have to make sure they get enough clapping. When they walk across the stage, you really have to hoot and holler to make sure your kid is not humiliated by the lack of excitement about their graduation.
Mayor Wu, as in our prior discussions, I've told you, not that it matters how appalled I am about this home rule petition thing, where a city or town decides it wants to do something, it will only affect its residents. And the arrogance of Beacon Hill to say, I'll decide about liquor licenses in Boston. I'll decide about rent control. There's a story in the Globe, I think, by Matt Stout the other day. My takeaway from the story was, speaking of home rule petitions, finally, after a decade or so, this real estate transfer tax, it could be anything, but a transfer tax on more expensive real estate transactions is likely to get support. But the implication was your rent stabilization thing is not. Is that a fair characterization of where you think things are?
I don't know that I've gotten specific. I don't know that anyone could say at this moment whether one or multiple or neither will go through. We have 7 items up at the State House that we are really fighting for around housing, affordability, transit access, childcare, particularly for families experiencing homelessness, climate. And so there are a number of initiatives we're moving through. But I think when it comes to housing, we have to do something. And I do feel that across the board, we are at a bit different place in terms of recognition of the urgency. The numbers around how many people have had to leave Massachusetts really reflect the unaffordability in so many areas.
But one last, have either you or whoever your liaisons had an opportunity to speak to the Senate President or the Speaker and say, well, whatever the number was the other day, 75% of the people in Boston want some form of rent control. Statewide, 2/3. Has anyone voiced that to the leaders? And if they do, what do they say in return? What's the argument against it?
I have the chance to sit with many of our legislative leaders up at the State House on a regular basis. We talk about a number of issues, and they know very clearly what my priorities are. I'm very probably annoying on that front. They have a different purview and a different perch where they have to think about things and how that affects the entire state. I get the pleasure of just focusing on fighting for Boston, and so I'm going to go hard. I don't have to worry about how this might impact other legislative conversations in other areas.
How does rent stabilization in Boston affect anybody beyond the? I don't mean to be argumentative. It's not you doing it.
That's what I would say. But
okay, fine.
I think there are many folks who would, in a legislative body where there are many needs, and Boston tends to be in the news a lot, and we have a lot of conversations about Boston. There are other places that have proposed similar legislation as well, and what would it mean for one to move through but not the other? That's the kind of conversation they have to think about that I have the convenience of just focusing on one city.
The cynical among us would say that perhaps the real estate interests have been very generous to politicians up in Beacon Hill, Jim?
Might say that.
Yeah.
One last home rule.
We have started to hear from folks in real estate. They are similarly recognizing the urgency of housing. Not everyone in all the professional lobbyist groups, but in terms of leaders in real estate, people have said we need to do something so that people can afford to live here as well.
One last home rule thing. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is because of this redistricting thing by federal Judge Saris the other day, throwing it back. I know you're going to come out with a plan, but because deadlines are approaching, correct me if I'm wrong, am I right that the legislature also has to agree to move back certain whatever filing or other dates for you're nodding in agreement. I don't even have to finish. Is that
There's
right?
multiple pathways. So, okay, I'm trying to decide how much time to take on this. It's really thorny, so I'll give an overview of what is at stake here. In order to run for office, someone has to collect signatures from registered voters in the area that they're trying to represent, their particular district. Those signatures have to be vetted and matched against our voter databases, or what's called certified, to make sure that these are real people and they actually live there. And then the ballots, once someone is officially on the ballot because they've been certified to have the signatures, the ballots have to be printed and sent to the printer and then distributed to all the polling locations, prepared for mail-in ballots. So when you back up from Election Day, how many steps are required? There's a lot that needs to go into that. And because the districts are still up in the air right now, people don't know who to even collect signatures from, or whether they will live in the district that they're ultimately trying to represent at this moment. And so we have a tight timeline. Our elections department always makes miracles happen, but we are asking them to do a lot right now. May 30th is the deadline by which we need to know how the maps will go so that we can get the papers in order, so that we can have enough time to certify and have people have enough time to collect signatures. At the same time, we're relaxing some of those requirements. So, for example, we could count signatures from different places. We could require fewer signatures. People will have more time to collect them once the maps are done. But this is predicated on a map being done May 30th. We need to build in time. There are only, I believe, 2 city council meetings on the books between now and May 30th. We will be proposing a map later today, just to make sure that we continue,
the mayor's office.
Continue the administration, moving forward. And we really need some sort of action on this map or another map as soon as this next Wednesday's meeting, in order to have enough time for potential amendments, tweaks, analysis of the Voting Rights Act and all of that. So we're on a quick timeline. We want to do our part to help make sure that we're making that happen. The map that I will be putting forward is really centered around neighborhood identity. I've lived in various parts of the city over time, and when a neighborhood is together within one district, it means that they can have opportunities to advocate and feel fully represented. And so over the course of the many years I've been serving, there are many, many micro neighborhoods in Boston, and we are going to try to put forward a map that will satisfy the court's requirements, satisfy the legal requirements, as well as unite communities and neighborhoods.
So was I wrong about saying the legislature needs to do something?
Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. So to change the process by which signatures will count for someone to be on the ballot, right now we've put forward a home rule petition. The legislature would need to sign off on that. If that becomes impossible, there is a pathway where we could go back to the court and say,
because the legislature didn't do it.
We're in this with you. You need to do it, but we'd rather go through the democratic process.
So, Mayor Wu, Jen is in Westford, not Boston, but she's nonetheless very excited about open streets, Newbury Street being open, other streets being open. So there's a lot of open streets, and there's also possible dog-friendly spaces and beer gardens and open dining patios. So it's a gorgeous day. Tell us about being outside and eating and drinking.
So everyone says, Boston's not stuffy. Boston's stuffy. Boston's not fun. Boston's not nice. We were rated, according to a survey, of being one of the nicest places, right? And I think if you get past people being silent on the T to each other, in fact, there's so much community here and so much hunger to be in community, to take care of your neighbors, to take care of your park or your block. Open streets help cultivate that sense of building community in a public space. They were packed last year. There's going to be one per month starting in June. So June, July, August, September, October. I'm going to get the exact order wrong, but it's something like Jamaica Plain, Roxbury, Dorchester, I think.
No, Alston Brighton is third. I have it in front of me. That's the only reason I know. Then Dorchester, then East Boston. Yeah.
And Newbury Street will be open on the weekends for double the number of the entire summer.
How about, is there a permanent?
That's great.
Is there a permanent? I mean, we talked about the Copley situation, which was fabulous. Is there a permanent closing in the offing that you want to hint to us about?
It takes a lot to think about emergency vehicle access around this and that pieces. There are some places where I think it could be possible, for example, on the weekends, but less so during the week.
I see.
If you look different cities around the country have different technology. They're starting to experiment with, for example, bollards that could be activated to come up and down on their own. So that would open up some more places. But there are spots where we've started to pedestrianize, and they've all been incredible for the businesses, for the residents, and for larger community.
And hold on, just want to tell us about the dogs.
Oh, dogs. So,
yes.
Outdoor patios, you sometimes would see like a water bowl right at the edge of the patio. The dog would be sitting on the other side of the fence on the sidewalk. These are outdoor spaces. We will need to have a process to ensure that full sanitary and food safety requirements are met, but there's now a way for patios to get certified as dog friendly so that they could be open to dogs with the right allocations and space.
John in Boston, you're on with Mayor Wu. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to ask the mayor and our administration to please look into the police station and how they handle domestic violence incidents. I was helping a domestic violence victim who did not want to file a report in their district, in their local police department. So we took them to a different district. And though the chief was trying to be helpful, ultimately we had to go to her local district to file the report. And, the problem with that is it creates a barrier. And, that person didn't want to go to that one because of fear of, the perpetrator seeing them or maybe tracking them or whatever. And so, if you live in the city, you should be able to go to any department and file a report. I understand there might be reasons why it would be easier to file it in the district that you're in, but it shouldn't. You're in Boston. Any district you go to for an issue with the police department should be able to be addressed there.
John, it's a great question. Let's have the mayor's response.
I completely agree with you. That is incredibly important for safety issues, and we need to. We've made a lot of changes over the years in terms of domestic violence filing and language barriers and who is, how our officers are trained in terms of communications with various parties who are involved. And so this is one that I need to learn more of, whether it is a policy that has to happen, or if this was just in this particular instance, the people who were there happened to send you in that direction. So if you are able to stay on and just give us a little more information on which station, that would be very helpful. And we'll look into the overall issue to make sure that people can feel as safe as possible.
John, if you're willing, please stay on the line and we'll get your contact information for the mayor. Thank you.
Mayor, we've got a couple of texts about this, probably because we had Bruce Marks on, who's from NACA and ACA. That's the first home buyer program that enables people with using different criteria, not necessarily the credit scores and stuff, to get houses. He doesn't work in Boston. The person is asking why is the city not working with them? Because they do seem to have a pretty successful program for people who might not qualify elsewhere for homes.
They're also building homes now, he told us, in Newark and Lima, Ohio.
And I think they're based in Roxbury, aren't they?
JP.
Isn't this JP or Roxbury? Okay, JP.
Yeah, I've been to their offices. They're beautiful. Bruce, of course, is a staple of the local scene here and community, and is well known by the folks in our administration. I know he is in... our chief of housing is in regular communication, and so we're well aware of the offerings and all that they do on their partners' side. The city also has its own programs to think about down payment assistance, mortgages, and we're really standing up our efforts there, and many of them are kind of directly on the city side.
Mayor, I don't want this to be a loaded question, but I can't. What do you think of the nauseating performance by Donald Trump the other night on CNN?
I didn't even watch. I mean, I saw some of the clips afterward. I can't understand the calculus to, it's like, haven't we learned enough by this point to somehow think that this would go differently this one time, and that it wouldn't just be a platform for more lies, more disinformation, misinformation, and hopefully it was illuminating and a reminder of something that we had maybe gotten a little bit more distance from, but unfortunately, I think any exposure for, it just drags us right back to the same conspiracies and real harm that this country experienced and continues to pick up the pieces from.
Did you choose not to watch, or you were busy?
I was busy anyway, but I wouldn't have watched.
Wouldn't have. Eliza, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, there's been a lot of criticism of the age of President Biden if he runs again. What do you think about those criticisms?
He's doing the job. I think there's, in terms of our interactions with the federal government, we have never, I've only been in this job a little bit, but from what I hear from other city officials, it's been, we're receiving grants that we had never ever before known about or hadn't existed as a funding source. We are getting direct technical assistance and expertise. We're constantly learning best practices and having federal officials visit Boston to take what we're doing and share it elsewhere as well. So we've enjoyed a very productive, very fruitful relationship with the administration, and they're really focused on cities, on making sure funding gets to states, but also that cities are getting direct support, and that has made a big difference with the team that he's assembled.
So clearly you support his reelection.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Eliza and JP, you're on with the mayor.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Hi, Mayor Wu, and thanks for taking my call, Jim and Marjorie.
Sure.
I'm calling because I'm excited about participatory budgeting coming to Boston as a citywide process this year. We've had youth participatory budgeting since 2014, and I've been working with a coalition of 38 community groups from across the city who are super excited. We've been doing these workshops with residents who have so many ideas and are really excited to be able to engage in the budget process in a more direct, democratic way, because as a resident who's engaged on my own time for many, many years, it's confusing and hard. And so my question, Mayor Wu, is the funding for the Office of Participatory Budgeting, which includes the staff and money to run the process and projects, is at $2 million, which is really not enough, in our opinion, to allow residents to suggest projects for the city and fund them. Will you increase funding for participatory budgeting in your final budget so they have more money to work with, so residents have more money to work with directly?
Could you also explain briefly what it is for those who don't know, please, Mayor?
Sure.
No, I meant Mayor
sorry.
Eliza. We appreciate your
probably
question.
Be the expert anyway.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you for all that you're doing and for continuing to be part of this. The idea is that the city's revenues that we spend come from taxpayer dollars, come from different sources that, whether it's parking meters or tickets that are given out, property taxes, and those dollars are allocated to all the programs that we have. The buildings like libraries and community centers, our police, fire, EMS, teachers, schools, trash pickup. And so we want to make sure that the dollars that are being collected from our residents to do the work of residents really does reflect the will of the people. And one way to inject some democracy directly into that is by setting aside some funding where residents can actually propose uses for that funding directly, help give feedback on how they would prioritize and rank them to really more directly, usually it's on a smaller scale, but shape projects that are happening in neighborhoods or give feedback on overall. So we have our standard budget process running where we're in the middle of hearings with the City Council on all the allocations across departments, and we, according to the ballot initiative and changes that were made, are standing up a participatory budgeting program. We have, I believe, I don't know if the offer just went out or is it officially finalized, but we are bringing on our director of the Participatory Budgeting Office very, very soon. Very excited about that staffing up of the office, and then we'll be able to really get it stood up. But when we are launching new initiatives in the city, it's important to get it right and have the grounding there. And so, there's still, I can't predict exactly what will happen in the budget process this year between all the rounds with the City Council and our final product. But we did put forward a budget, including that initial funding to get the office started so that we could be on track to continue to launch it in a way that makes sense as this program will evolve in future years.
Thank you, Eliza.
Remember at the start of the show, in honor of Mother's Day, we talked to a lot of mothers about the state of motherhood in 2023. We got some very happy and some very upsetting answers. But I'm wondering, since it is Mother's Day Sunday, do your two little boys give you pancakes in bed, or did you get to take the day off, or do you know what is going to happen? Are you going to be surprised?
I think it may be a little too early for breakfast, but probably the first thing we'll do is to go to the Mother's Day Walk for
Mark,
peace.
yep.
So we'll be there with community and really ensuring that everyone is rallying around safety, healing, and justice and love. Starting in Dorchester, there's also the Duckling Day Parade.
Oh, I did not know about that.
Everybody comes, decked out in their duckling gear. At some point, I hope I get served something in bed. By the kids, maybe it'll be like a snack or something. But they get really excited about handmade car. They'll draw their little pictures and things like that.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to it.
What do people wear in the Duckling Day Parade? They wear like duck outfits?
I was actually gifted a gorgeous hat. Someone had, it was a yellow hat, and they had gotten googly eyes and hot glue gunned it on and some feathers. And so people the kids come in little duckling costumes and go around the garden.
Can I just, since you mentioned it, it's really important. One of the most amazing events, Clementina Cherry, obviously in honor of her son, Louis D. Brown, who was murdered many years ago. This is Sunday morning. What a way to start Mother's Day. The gathering is at 8 a.m. at Townfield Park in Dorchester. You can go to Mother's Day Walk 4, the number 4peace.org, and get information. And it is one of the most impressive gatherings of people that I have ever, Marjorie's been there too, have ever encountered. So it's great you're going to be there, and I hope other people are
Our
too.
community in Boston is there's nothing like a mother's love, and for the mothers who have gone through the unthinkable to really build community and ensure that we are changing the lives of families to come. It's an incredibly powerful and important place to be.
And by the way, they celebrate the lives at this event of those whom they lost. So for those who are saying, what a depressing way to start the day, it's important and uplifting in a lot of ways. It's really a very moving time. Mayor, thanks for the plants. It's wonderful to see you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very, very much. Have a happy Mother's Day, Mayor Wu. We've been speaking with Boston Mayor Michelle Wu with another edition of Ask the Mayor. As always, we are very grateful for her taking the time to be with us and to be with our listeners for the full hour every month. And coming up, I can't believe what a transition this is.
It's embarrassing.
Jim has showed up today at the office
I have.
at the Boston Public Library in a pair of cargo shorts.
I have.
And we're all still kind of traumatized about this. So the question is, as the weather heats up and post-pandemic, are shorts at the office perfectly fine? Or should someone on our staff be running to Marshall's to buy Jim some jeans, or at the very least, a towel to put over his legs? 877-301-8970 is the number. Shorts at the office, yay or nay? You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Still looking for a Mother's Day gift? How about the gift of time? Take an hour and take a listen to our special takeaway episode on the politics of motherhood. And hey, invite Mama to listen along with you. I'm Melissa Harris Perry, and that's next time on The Takeaway from WNYC and PRX.
This afternoon at 2, here on GBH News 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Newbury Court, a full-service residential community in Concord, Massachusetts for persons 62 or over, committed to creating an active, independent lifestyle. More at newburycourt.org or 978-369-5155. And Walden Local Meat, 100% grass-fed and pasture-raised beef, pork, and chicken, and seafood from local farmers, hand-delivered to your door. Committed to supporting local food for communities. Membership options and more at waldenlocalmeat.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. This is the segment where Marjorie insults me. And Probably be cheered on by a lot of people.
You're the one who wore the shorts.
I am indeed. You know why, Marjorie?
Why
Because
is that,
the weather
Jim?
has gotten
Yep.
warmer.
Am I
and when
wearing
it does,
shorts? I'm not wearing
I have no
shorts.
idea. It's important to be comfortable in the workplace
Okay.
where we spend a third of our lives. Susan from Pittsburgh writes to a fashion columnist at the New York Times,
New York Times,
Marjorie, and asks, is it possible to wear shorts to work? Well, I think I've answered that question. As Marjorie has been gasping out all day, I'm living proof that it's not only possible, it is encouraged. Shorts in the office, appropriate or travesty, especially for men, Marjorie said to me. What if they're a really nice, classy, like let's say a respectable pair of light cargo shorts? Oops. The number is 877-301-8970 to call or text. Where is the line? If cargo shorts are okay.
Somewhere on your thigh.
What about a tank top, Marjorie? What about open-toed sandals or sandals with socks? Essentially, what is appropriate office attire when the weather gets warm as it is today?
Well, apparently-
877-301-8970. I'm sorry.
Apparently, this is just not about the weather getting warmer. This is a post-pandemic thing.
It
where
is.
people have been home for 3 years
Indeed.
in their cargo shorts or in their T-shirts
Yep.
or in their pajamas in some cases, and they've decided they want me to come back to work. Well, okay, I'll come back to work, but I'm not going to get dressed up to come back to work. Even lawyers are talking about how there's no more jackets and ties.
They have
unless-
short suits. Do you know
short
this?
suits. I know. Those are really weird.
LeBron
if you
wears
ask me.
those.
But anyway, you only have to have the jackets and ties if you go to court.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they worry so much about it in court, because if you've been to a
Exactly.
court lately, the
Exactly.
clientele is not exactly
Oh,
dressed up.
that's really nice.
They're not.
That's really nice.
They're not. They're
And the
dressed-
judges are wearing robes with nothing
you don't know.
underneath
You
them,
don't know
from what
what
we
is
understand.
underneath the robes. That's right. And the people in the courtroom are not very dressed up.
So what
anyway.
is your problem, if I may, before we get to the calls at 877-301-8970? We've been on the air 25 years, which means I've been wearing shorts to work for
Yeah.
25 years.
Yeah.
You've gone out of your way each of the
Well,
25
I
years
think the issue
to ridicule me. What's the
is-
issue?
It depends on who's wearing the shorts.
Oh, you mean like those
Jim.
kids who were singing before the prom?
Well,
they were okay.
They were like 20 years old.
They
Jim.
were like
and
20
they were
years
in
old.
And the shorts, and so maybe when you can get away with showing more skin when you're 20, as opposed to
Can I
when
tell you what
you're
I'm doing on
a couple
Monday?
of decades beyond
I'm wearing
that.
PJs to work. You think this is...
Well, people are apparently
I know,
doing
you
that.
just said that.
They were talking about in the story. I mean, we're going to show a picture in a minute of a guy that I think is a little bit over the top in the outfit he was wearing to this Manhattan marketing firm, Yvonne Para Orlandandi. Did you see his picture? Where did we show this
I
picture?
did. We're going to show the... Oh, there he looks fabulous.
Okay. I mean, really?
Would you do business with that man?
Really?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Now, he's gone the full Monty there. He's got the shorts, and he's got the little tank top, and he's got the little sneakers on. But he left his wife warned him that he shouldn't do it, but he went ahead and did it anyway. So this is a post-pandemic thing.
No, it's
where-
not just the post. It is gotten more participatory post-pandemic. But I was doing this post-pandemic. A lot of people were. By the way, Beck, watching on YouTube, posts the following, which is very dangerous. He says he has an AI suggestion, obviously for Jamie, our colleague. Jim in cargo shorts, eating a baguette at the Whole Foods hot bar, wearing a "Do You Know Who I Am" T-shirt.
Oh, my God.
I mean, really?
He gave us the picture.
They did it. I mean, let me tell you
Jim.
something. If that's posted, you're looking for work.
That's
okay?
really- that's really
877
horrible.
301. Thank you. 877-301-8970. Let's have a serious discussion about whether, by the way, you know why people wear shorts at work? Excuse me. Hello.
Why?
Why do people wear shorts at work? Because it's comfortable.
Because it's comfortable.
Are you comfortable in what you're wearing?
I'm wearing jeans.
Well, whatever.
I'm wearing
Are you
long
comfortable
pants.
in
I am
those?
very comfortable
Okay,
in my
so
long
fine.
pants.
You
yeah.
want to be comfortable? I want to be comfortable.
Okay.
Fine. Okay, yourself.
Okay.
Let's go to Kate in Watertown. You're first on Boston. What?
Oh, go ahead.
Hold it, Kate. One
No,
second.
go ahead with the call. Go
Kate
ahead
in
with the
Watertown. What's up?
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm not good. Thank you, Kate.
Well, I know because you're wearing cargo shorts.
Well, no, that's not why I'm not good, but thank you. Go ahead.
I feel like if you're not a painter or a carpenter,
Yeah.
you have no business wearing cargo. Are your pockets filled? You have
No, I
every
do. By the
single one
way,
of your pockets
I'm
filled?
so glad. Let me interrupt you and say this. I do wear cargo shorts. I do not put anything in the pockets except the principal pockets. I'm glad you brought that up, Kate. Continue.
Well, I would also just like to add that I also have an issue with short sleeve, button down, collared shirts.
That's what I'm wearing right now.
Not good.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for the nice
Yeah,
words,
we're supposed
Kate.
to have
Thank you.
we're supposed to wear long sleeves, right?
What's wrong, Kate? What's wrong with? I'm wearing a polo shirt.
Yeah.
What's the problem with that?
Under like a suit. I think you mean like a suit when you're
are
dressed
you
up.
golfing later?
Yeah.
I am.
Are
I'm
you going to go golfing?
I'm going to a putt-putt. Yes, thank you, Kate. Thank you very much for your call.
No, these are all the things.
Rather critical, I'd say.
Well, these are all the things you might have learned years ago. That if a man's wearing a suit, he's not supposed to wear a short sleeve shirt.
She's not talking about a
underneath
suit.
the
She doesn't like me wearing a polo shirt to
Well,
work.
I think she meant short sleeves under a shirt, a button-down collar.
Don't you
shirt,
think
that's what she
a
was talking
polo
about.
shirt under a suit jacket actually looks sort of relaxed
Well,
and
a
nice?
polo shirt is not a button-down collar shirt.
No, I
Short
know,
sleeve,
exactly
button-down
my
collar
point.
shirts. There and what do you call these things? This guy was wearing. Was he wearing a tank top?
The tank top.
I mean, I don't know. Do you want to? If you go in to hire a lawyer,
Yeah.
I mean, and he comes out in a tank top and shorts, is that the lawyer you're
When
going to
I
hire?
was a lawyer in the South Bronx, I would wear a tank
Mhm.
top, shorts, and sandals. That's what I did to work in the court every day. No one's talking about going to court in this outfit. Why are you laughing?
Well, that's the only time that they were supposed to go to court. But if you went to meet the lawyer in his office, I don't think you'd like that. I like that either.
Mhm.
Now, we have a lot of texts here. Here's someone that says, I think Jim's shorts look great as
Thank
I
you.
listen safely far away
Thank you
on the
for that.
radio.
Appreciate the support. Yeah, I'll take it.
And Leah Needham says, oh, how sexist. What's the difference between a man wearing shorts below his knees and a woman wearing a dress?
Wow,
And
thank you.
Lee says, Jim probably has great legs. Do you have great legs, Jim?
I think I have rather fine legs. Thank you for suggesting. I wouldn't have said it
Okay.
had I not
and
been
Sheila,
encouraged.
Sheila from Taunton says,
What, are you just going to keep reading text
I
all
just
the
have
show?
one more.
Go
I don't
ahead.
mind seeing Jim's legs at all, but I don't ever want to see men in flip-flops. Feet are, ooh.
We're going to do a show on feet next week. By the way, you got to stop with these AI things. They are really. I look like I'm deformed. Joel in Ashland, you are next. Look at Jamie laughing like a fool over here. I mean, this guy gets paid
They
for
are
this.
pretty funny, Jim.
Joel and Ashland, you're next on Boston Public Radio. We're talking about shorts at the office in general, but men in shorts at the office in particular. Hi, Joel.
Hi, many-time caller. Thanks for
Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
So I had a client who would wear shorts everywhere. He would come to a deposition. He would come to a hearing. He would always wearing shorts. One time I was taking him out to lunch, and I got to the restaurant first, and I said to the maitre d', if a guy comes in shorts with the ugliest legs you ever saw, just bring him to my table. So I'm sitting at the table, and guy shows up. He says, how did he know to bring me here? I said, well, I told him. Guy comes in with shorts with the ugliest legs. That's going to be the guy I'm having lunch with.
There you
got
go.
a kick out of that.
There you go. That's a good one.
It's a good one. Thank
Joel,
you, Joel.
thank you for
Appreciate
the
it.
call. Paul from Worcester says, if women can wear dresses and show legs, why can't guys wear shorts? Would you rather Jim wear a dress? Just be glad that he's wearing clothes.
By the way, we've had that discussion through the years. If I had more courage than I do, I would absolutely wear a skirt kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would totally do. Would you ridicule that too?
You're being challenged by texters for
What
your
are they
courage,
saying?
Jim. They said, for those of us streaming on YouTube, can we get Jim to model the shorts on camera? Maybe you should strut across here, like the models do in the runway.
I'll be strutting when the show's over at 2 o'clock. So if you're into the strut, show up.
Eric in the car, thank you for calling.
Eric, hey.
Hi, Eric. You
Hey.
there?
Eric, we'll put you on hold.
Oh, here he is. Here he
Oh,
is.
here he is. Hi,
Yep.
Eric. It's going well. Eric, thank you for the call. We'll get right back to you in a second. Kelly in Sturbridge, what's your deal?
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Hi.
I am going to support several of the texters in
Thank
thinking
you.
about, the sexist divide with it.
Exactly.
Because women not only get to have skirts or dresses, they can wear capris.
Excellent
shirts,
point.
Not necessarily tank tops. And so I think if the direction is going more in saying, yes, men can wear shorts, maybe they might have to have a new fashion created that addresses that, kind of more quote-unquote dressy shorts. But I think there's context that shorts wouldn't be appropriate, but in the workplace on a regular day, unless you're doing something with a particular client where you want to make sure you're dressed more formally, I guess I'm not sure what the problem is. I don't really hear any argument that questions why it's bad.
Well, Kelly, what you're basically saying, let me translate a little, that Marjorie's making a ridiculous argument. Marjorie, would you like to respond to Kelly? Go ahead.
No, Kelly raises a
What do you
lot
say
of
to
good
her?
points. I, for one, Kelly, am grateful that women have more choice in some areas, at least, than men do, because certainly we don't in every area, but it's great that we do. The skirts, the capris, all that kind of stuff. But the argument that they're making in these stories is that it's unprofessional, that people are used to dealing with professionals in business casual khakis and ties, and that shorts are unprofessional. So
they were also used to people not working from home. I mean, they're
That's
sort
right.
of used to that now too, aren't they?
That's
Kelly,
right.
that was an excellent call. Do another one soon. Thank you.
But the big thing is, I mean, you said it wasn't the pandemic, but one of the arguments this guy.
I didn't
that
say it
works
was only the pandemic.
That
I'm sorry.
it's really hard to get people to come to work now, right?
Yeah.
It is really hard to try
That's
to put
part
on
of it. You're right
food,
about
try to
that.
put on that. So the employer is relaxing on a lot of things. I mean, before the pandemic, I think you would see lots of people having to go, particularly men, having to go to work in a jacket and tie. And I think that is apparently all over now.
Can I tell you something? I also, despite your criticism, I showed some discretion. You know how sometimes when you're on your way to work, you're saying, should I wear this or wear that? I was deciding between cargo shorts, which I wore, and a Speedo. And I decided, thought that was inappropriate for the workplace.
It would be
So I wore the
inappropriate.
cargo
The
shorts.
Speedo would
By
not
the way,
be
that
good.
caller made a wonderful point.
What?
Even though cargo shorts have lots of pockets on
Yep.
them, I want to join in with those who are appalled by people who have every pocket on the cargo pants, like totally packed.
Well, those are usually your contractors, right? They need a lot of room in the pockets for
Didn't
their
Mayor
stuff.
Walsh take heat or something? I just realized this. Didn't he go to some parade with
In cargo
cargo
shorts?
shorts and they were all stuffed or
I don't
something
know.
like that?
I know that the cargo shorts are not allowed on a lot of golf courses.
Is that
heard,
true?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Wow.
You have to have more formal shorts. You just can't wear any old pair of shorts, Jim. Yep. Mark in the car. Thank you
Mark.
for calling.
Hello.
Hello to
Hello.
you. Hello.
Hi, this is Mark.
We know that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you and we know it's Mark. So let's take it from there.
Hi, this is Mark.
Oh, we heard that. It's Mark and we can hear you. Go ahead. Is this
Okay,
Mark,
great.
by the
I
way?
can't
Wait.
hear you that well,
Is this
so-
Mark or not?
Anyway,
Yeah, go ahead.
It is Mark.
Go
It
ahead.
is Mark, Jim.
Yeah.
Here's what it depends on, Jim.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
depends on the belt line, and particularly from the rear view.
Yes.
So how's the belt line?
Well, you asking if there's a plumber's
Above the
crack
waist?
experience? Is that what you're talking about? I don't believe so. Is that who is that? Dan Aykroyd
right.
on Saturday Night Live 100 years ago? It was.
Yeah, actually, just so I'm not, deemed sexist here, I think it applies to women too. No crack line from the rear
Well,
view.
thank you. I didn't know if we needed to introduce that subject into the discussion, but thank you, Mark, for your
I
contribution.
don't think I've
to
ever
the
seen a
show.
woman.
Oh, I have.
You have?
Yeah, more
Okay.
men, but not only men.
Okay. Ben from Worcester, he's very formal. He said Bermuda-style shorts are perfectly acceptable. Cargo shorts are never acceptable anywhere.
Why is that, by the way?
He didn't explain why.
Okay.
He just said that, Ben from Worcester. And then shorts at work, easiest question of the week, no, with 3 exclamation points.
Have you ever worn shorts to work? I just realized. Have you ever worn shorts to work?
No.
Ever? Never?
No.
Not once?
Not once.
And it's conscious that it's not appropriate for work. Is that what you're thinking is?
I don't think I'd wear them. But I can wear a skirt. I can wear a long skirt in
You
the
can.
summertime. And when it's hot in the summertime, a long skirt is great because you walk
get
in.
the wind
you
go
get the
blowing up there.
ventilation kind of deal.
Yeah.
Rebecca from Reading is, I'm horrified by the places people feel comfortable wearing shorts, work, church, nice restaurants. She was at the Boston Public Radio the day the AC was broken. Remember that?
Yes.
And she said she managed just fine in a pair of long pants.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Gerson, you're in Spencer, I believe. You're on Boston Public Radio. Thank you for calling. Hi.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Marjorie.
Hi, thanks for calling.
I'm a truck driver.
Yep.
Hi. I'm a truck driver, and I see guys all the time in flip-flops with shorts driving a truck and coming in and out. That's
Wow.
for this job, is the safety aspect of it, is that you can slip coming out of the truck or going in. And when I was in school for this, they told us wear jeans and steel-toe boots so you can have a grip getting in and out of the truck. This one guy didn't listen, and he came in basketball shorts, and he slipped out of the truck and sliced his leg open from the steps of the truck.
That's
Wow.
a rather
So
sad story, Gerson, but go ahead.
Yeah, it is. It's a good idea to just follow your employer's policy, their dress code, because of that. There's a reason for it.
Do we have a dress code? Gerson, thanks for calling. Do we have a dress code here?
I don't know.
By the way, a friend of ours, Marty, yours and mine, says, I hope Jim's also wearing Birkenstocks with socks. I would not be caught dead. We've done whole shows on that, and we'll do many more in the future. Birkenstocks alone are horrible. With socks are even worse, if anybody was curious.
Here's Adam from New Hampshire. If you are for equality, please square me how you argue that men can't wear shorts, this is to me, or even tank tops, that women can
Excellent.
wear skirts and spaghetti straps. I don't know.
Excellent
Actually,
point.
I don't know if they can wear spaghetti straps. That's a big no-no
Oh,
in a
yes,
lot of
they can.
offices. And don't give me that feminist spiel about women wearing
Wow.
skirts, because that's what men wanted back in the day. It's 2023. No one's forcing women to wear anything they don't want to.
Wow. What do you say to him?
Well, I would say he's mad at me, I guess.
Apparently.
But apparently spaghetti strap shirts and backless tops are the final frontier.
They are?
Yes, for informality that corporations have not yet crossed in any large numbers. And I also think that there's still you're worried about getting taken seriously. A lot of women are. You know what I mean?
I think I do know what you mean, yes.
Suzanne from Gloucester. Hi, Suzanne.
Suzanne.
Oh, is that Vivian from Gloucester?
Vivian.
Vivian, hi. Sorry,
Hi, Vivian.
Sorry.
It was Marjorie's fault. Go
My
ahead.
fault.
Hi, go ahead,
Let
Vivian.
me tell you about
Please.
the time that I spent in Australia, 75, 76. The local banker used to wear a suit, like chino material, with shorts, with a kind of safari jacket, and a pair of long white socks
I'm gonna be
with
doing that.
brogues, leather brogues.
What is a brogue? What is a brogue?
It's a shoe.
A shoe. Now, Marjorie, what do you think of that? I love that image.
Well,
what do
you
you think
know,
of that
you do
attire?
see. I've seen some of these things on PBS on our station on Channel 2. These British dramas or these
Like Bermuda kind of
or like
thing?
India or Bermuda or something like that, where a lot of men do wear suits with shorts.
And what did you think of
course,
that
they
look,
wear
Vivian?
kilts over in Scotland
Whatever.
too.
Vivian, what do you think of that?
It was appropriate for a bank.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, that's a beautiful call, Vivian. Thank you. I'm sorry Marjorie got your name wrong. Thank you very much for the call.
Here's a texter who wants to put your legs, Jim, in the smug mug. That's from Roy the Claw in Norwood.
Well, you know what? You know, if they want that image, the closest I can give you, remember I told you I was in that movie, America at 10 Miles an Hour? It was a movie about taking a Segway across the country.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I had the two guys who were making the film, and they said, do you want to be in the film? I said, sure. So they taped me as I'm maneuvering a Segway through the newsroom at NECN. I was pretty proud of it because I did fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
And when the movie came out, I was thrilled because I was in a movie, which was great.
Right.
The angle of the camera was below and from behind. So essentially the whole what's that called, screen, is filled with my behind.
Yes, that's right.
Maneuvering the newsroom on a Segway. So if you want, that's the closest I can get to you. Check it out. America at 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, one of the two.
Paul wants to see an AI, artificial intelligence, that is, of Jim in a kilt playing bagpipes.
By the way, and also, I can't play bagpipes.
Sean Connery.
No,
in a
I
kilt.
know. But by the way, yeah, Sean Connery. He's another one, by the way. Did you ever see when what's her face died? Barbara Walters died. Did you see the nauseating answer he gave to her about a comment he had made about hitting women? And if he wanted to withdraw it, and his response was that it was absolutely appropriate in some circumstances.
He was not on the feminist bandwagon.
That's disgusting.
Let's put it that way.
Okay. You want to take one more? Sure.
Sure.
Perfect. Jimbo.
Jimbo. Hi, Jimbo.
Hey, Jimbo. What's going on in Boston?
Hello, folks. How you doing?
Excellent. Thanks for calling.
So one thing we didn't talk about yet, I'm one of those folks that wears shorts all year round.
Yeah, I know one. And why do you do that?
Well, I'll tell you, I run real hot. I come from like Viking Scottish stock.
Sure.
And, I run really, really hot. Even in the wintertime, I am always hot. So shorts work for me.
Well, there you go. I mean, you do see people. I don't know. Don't you? Because I always do wonder how their legs and calves don't get cold. But you're explaining it, Jimbo, coming from that hot stock.
Hot body thing.
Hot body thing.
You know, I mentioned this. Fred Park, who's the name of a teacher who was named Teacher of the Year in America several years ago by Bill Clinton and taught both of my daughters in Cambridge Ford schools. He wore shorts 365 days a year, as well as Jimbo, so he is not alone there.
Yeah, well, apparently a lot of people are into shorts.
What are they saying?
Kathy says at her daughter's wedding, one guy showed up in shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right near the Christmas tree shop that's closing down,
Yeah.
the one with the windmill.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think you'd look very nice at the library, Jim, in a kilt, tartan kilt.
In all seriousness, we should explore that.
That's the next frontier.
What is the obstacle? I mean, this is a serious question to men wearing skirts. Just tradition, right?
You just don't see it very often.
I understand that. I'm saying, why don't we see it very often? Because of just stupid tradition, right?
I guess. I mean, the only place you think of men in skirts is in Scotland,
I know, you
right?
just said that, right.
So I don't know, Jim. But if you want to break the rule, get out of your shorts and put on a kilt, I think we'd all be very grateful.
Now,
Nice
by the
tartan
way,
kilt.
even though Marjorie said at the beginning of the segment that she was traumatized by wearing shorts today, I would say, based upon the callers and the texters, overwhelming percentage were supportive of my, if I may call it, look.
Yeah,
Would you not say?
Well, you know what, Jim?
What?
They didn't really see your look.
That is true. That is. That's a very fine point.
Okay, we are done. Thank you very
Here
much.
it is. Employees from the employee handbook. Employees are expected to dress business casual, which is what I'm doing, attire, unless the day's tasks require otherwise, which they don't, such as hosting a radio show at the Boston Public. I don't
There you
think
go.
so. Thank you.
In
Nice
violation once again.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, thank you very much for listening to us today. Thank you very much, people that came down to the Boston Public Library. On Monday, we're going to be joined by Carolyn Beeler from PRX GBH's The World on their new series on climate change. Incredible piece in the Globe today about water rising, groundwater rising in places like Woburn that are far from the water, very scary. Charlie Sennett from the Ground Truth Project is going to join us as well. Our food man, Corby Cummer, and the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price III taking on the religious issues of the day. Our crew, we want to thank them very much. Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer, John the Claw Parker, Brian Bell on the board today for John, and our executive producer is Jenny Bologna, who puts all those AI things up of Jim Browdy looking ridiculous, and we get a big kick out of them, so keep doing it, Jamie. We want to thank our crew here at the library, Angelica Marrero, Sai Patel, and Evelyn Brito. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. I hope he has a wonderful weekend. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you can tune in on Monday. And again, thank you for listening to us today.